Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Fantasy. Confess to the villain Empress at the start of Rebirth. Chapter 1. Shenshuan Continent, June Martial Emperor. Shen's military mansion, in Italuan, Talwayao. Is this crossing? Ling Tian blinked and looked at the unfamiliar environment in front of him and muttered to himself. Combining the memory, Ling Tian calmly analyzed it. In the end, I came to the most accurate judgment. I really crossed into a large-scale fantasy cultivation game called God Demon. In this game setting, each player has an own identity. With the development of the game world line, the player can start to cultivate and compete for hegemony, and even become a god. And my identity is June Martial Emperor, one of the 4 major military mansions, the young man of Shen's Junfu Ling Tian. Ling Tian frowned, her complexion a little ugly. Regardless of his status as the young master of the military mansion, his status is very lofty. But judging from the setting of the game plot line, he knows he is actually in an extremely worrying situation. First of all, his own cultivation talent is extremely mediocre, and he can only enter the Xingshuan realm at the age of 20. Coupled with the fact that their parents died in battle a few years ago, the Shen's military mansion is gradually declining. Fortunately, her own big sis Ling Yao is the famous female martial sage of the Zhou Martial Emperor. She is now commanding an army of 800,000 divine strategies, guarding the border. Carrying up the heavy burden that should have been on my body. This can be regarded as temporarily stopping the decline of the Shen's military mansion. However, the problem also came. It is precisely because of the power of Big Sis. The young master of his dignified military mansion has no real power. I only have the title of Young Palace Lord, although he has a stunning face like a monster. But in fact it is purely a silly white sweet, and a love brain. It can be said that there is no intention at all. Such a guy can eat people in this person. How long can the cultivation base be cruel and extremely cruel? The fact is also true. If Ling Tian remembers the game plot line correctly, the young palace lord who had the same name as him ended up dying at the hands of his sweetheart and his parents' adopted son Ling Jian. He didn't even know why the woman he loved killed him before he died. Really live up to the reputation of being silly and sweet. This start as a nightmare start. Ling Tian stretched out his hand and rubbed his brows. And at this moment, Ling Tian suddenly felt a cold behind him. Turn around. I saw a tall figure in black slowly walked in outside the courtyard. The man's eyebrows and sword eyes, the stiff white and handsome face always has a faint smile. It's Ling Jian. Ling Tian looked slightly cold and recognized the incoming person. At the same time, all kinds of information about this person automatically appeared in my mind. Ling Jian. Bright identity. Adopted son of Shen's military mansion. Actual identity. A sword in the hands of Emperor Martial Emperor Xiaoyao, and also a core figure used by the emperor to eat away at the plan of the military mansion of Shen's. Cultivation base. 7 Moon Profound Realms. Factor. June Martial God is the #1 underground power, the poster of the Weeping Blood building. Ling Tian little brother is getting better these days. Ling Jian held his hand and looked at Ling Tian with a gentle expression. Fine. Yeah, big brother remembered it. Ling Tian nodded. He tried his best to deal with Ling Jian in his usual tone and way of speaking. Now he can't let Ling Jian see that this Ling Tian is not the other Ling Tian. Ling Tian little brother, Princess Wei Yang asked me to tell you that tomorrow she will be waiting for you in the Wangyu bamboo forest outside the city. See you or leave. Ling Jian smiled slightly. His smile was very kind, but there was a chill in the depths of his eyes. A name emerged in his mind: Jun Wei Yang. Jun Wei Yang is the eldest princess of June Martial God, possessing super talent for cultivation and unparalleled looks. Sure enough, is it here? Ling Tian frowned slightly, a touch of dignity surged in her heart. If he remembers correctly, tomorrow's date with Jun Wei Yang is a trap. To assassinate his trap, and if I die in Wangyugu as the game plot line develops. Then the next plot will become that Ling Jian replaces himself as the young palace master of the Shen's military mansion. After that, the Emperor Martial Emperor will continue to fuel the flames and draw up the next imperial decree, to marry Ling Jian and his own big sis Ling Yao. When the two get married, Ling Jian will be able to truly take power in the military mansion of God. Of course, although Ling Tian is well aware of these various conspiracies against Own. But as a god and demon hardcore player, he has the most basic mental qualities. He knows that he must not show his cowardice now. Therefore, Ling Tian immediately reacted, and immediately smiled and said, "I will be there on time." Upon hearing this, Ling Jian frivolous brows frivolously sneered to himself. I really am an idiot." Having said that, he nodded to Ling Tian and then turned and left. The moment he walked out of the courtyard, the smiles on Ling Tian's face disappeared. Instead, it was cold and solemn. Are these guys going to do it so soon? He didn't expect that scene in the plotline was about to come. "Your sister. Isn't this cheating?" Ling Tian was a little tight in his chest. When people go through it, they all open gold finger, heavenly spirit and earth treasure finds high, fairy holy maiden chases all kinds of backwards. How come to yourself, it becomes a nightmare start. Once they come up, others will have their own lives. What should I do now? Escape. Stop making trouble. Ling Jian controls the underground forces of the entire imperial capital, owning every move is under his nose, and there is no way to escape. Ask for help. His own general martial sage, Big Sis, is now leading the Shen's army to fight against the Feathered Empire at the border between Zhengwu and Wushu. The distant waters can't quench the near thirst after all. Now his situation is really bad every day, and the ground is not working. But it is. Ling Jian and Zhun Weiyang also saw the time when they were alone and helpless, so they chose to start with them. At this moment, a slightly cold mechanical voice rang through his ears. Ding. The system is loading. Ding. The system started successfully. Ding. The system is bound. Novice task release. Within an hour, take the initiative to confess to a member of the opposite gender, and get rewards regardless of success or failure. Task reminder. The higher the cultivation base, the stronger the talent and the more detached the status of the confession object, the higher the treasure chest reward level the host can obtain. Reminder. Treasure chest levels are divided into Novice Treasure Box, Bronze Treasure Box, Silver Treasure Box, Gold Treasure Box, Diamond Treasure Box, God Level Treasure Box, Super God Level Treasure Box, Highest Treasure Box. Warning. If the host does not complete the task within 1 hour, the system will enter permanent sleep. Haotian Physical Body. Shantian enters the mystery. Xingxuan 7 realms, Yuexuan realm 8 realms, Conferred King 9 realms, Sacred realm, Emperor Profound, Heavenly Profound Supreme, Shenshuan Conferred God. Ling Tian listened to this series of system prompts. He froze for a moment. After reading countless novels, he naturally knows what the system is like. Gold Finger is here. Ling Tian was a little excited. Although the tasks released by the system are a bit weird. But given that he is at a critical juncture, so he can't tolerate any of his opinions. And I only need to confess a member of the opposite gender, and I can get rewards no matter if I succeed or not. Isn't this a pie in the sky? Ling Tian nodded and calmed down. Thoughts turned crazy. First of all, I only have 1 hour of time. So in other words, I can only choose a candidate from this monarch martial god. Secondly, according to the requirements of the task, oneself certainly cannot choose a confession of the opposite gender. Because Ling Jian owns the cultivation base of the 7 moon profound realms, and at the same time controls the martial god, the first underground force, the cultivation base. Therefore, I must confess a woman who is superb in her status and cultivation talent. Otherwise, even if I have completed the confession task myself, then the level of reward won't be enough to support oneself through the upcoming killing game. Thought of here. Suddenly Ling Tian's eyes lit up. There is it. There really is a woman now. Talent, status, and cultivation base are all powerful. And she is in the imperial capital. The leaf kite of Tianyi Army Mansion, one of the 4 army mansion. Ling Tian's eyes flickered slightly. According to the settings in the game, Yi Ziwan is extremely talented. She possesses the first divine body of the martial emperor dynasty, the body of Tianfeng. And now she is the same as her own general Big Sis. She has commanded the army of 500,000 heavenly leaves in Tianyi Divine Mansion at a young age. Although Yi Zi is known to be cold and arrogant, it is difficult for anyone to approach her. But luckily, Ling Tian is Yi Zi's childhood sweetheart and only friend. With this help, he can freely enter and exit the Tianyi Army Mansion. The most important thing is that it is completely reasonable and will not arouse the suspicion of Ling Jian and the group. Cultivation base is powerful. The talented physique is invincible. Identity status is superb and noble. I'm still a childhood sweetheart with myself. It's her. Ling Tian's eyes are getting brighter and brighter. Then, without saying a word, he raised his foot and walked towards the Tianyi army mansion. About confession. Is it hard? It's late at night. The bright moonlight fell every inch of the Skyleaf army mansion, covering it with a beautiful silver gauze. The entire military palace is quiet and harmonious. And upstairs in the Tianyi army mansion Wangyu that overlooks the entire martial god capital, a hazy shadow stood. From a distance, she is dressed in a gorgeous snow coat, curvy and beautiful. Under the shining of the moonlight, she was like a goddess nine heavens, flawlessly beautiful and unattainable. There is a wave of ice prestige that makes people fall into the ice prison. You can feel a chill that pierces the soul just by looking at it. And she is the palace master of Tianyi army mansion. Yi Ziwan's stepmother, Yi Qingluo, who is known as the Ice Queen in the martial emperor dynasty. Yi Qingluo's azure blue icy eyes overlooked martial god. After a while, a touch of confusion flashed across his eyes. Red lips murmured to himself, the emperor, really reborn. Immediately after that, the fusion of memories of the two lives began. In an instant, she passed a touch of paleness on her unparalleled ice face like an illusion. A blood-stained picture unconsciously appeared in her ice eyes. This is a very tall woman with no god crown on her head. Left hand divine halberd, right hand fairy sword, armor stained with blood, blue icy hair dancing in the wind. She stood alone in the heavens and the earth, facing the nine heavens alone. Under her feet, leaning over 1,000,000 miles. God's blood soaks the earth and spreads all over the world. The swaying starlight reflects the deep fear on the faces of the gods and Buddhas. Even if the divine halberd in her hand is broken, the fairy sword is destroyed, and the fairy body is broken, it is already exhausted. But still no one dared to approach her, even one step. At this time, an unparalleled fairy shadow pushes away the crowd and walks up. She held an ice blade, slowly approached, and then heavily inserted into the woman's heart. Puff! Then the ice blade was pulled out, bringing out a string of golden blood. Then the picture is still unbroken. Call, call, call. Yi Qingluo recovered and breathed heavily. The chest that was so full that he wanted to break through the snow clothes undulated violently. Obviously, the memories just now caused her extreme mood swings. It took a while before he recovered slowly. She raised her head, her beautiful eyes looked towards the endless sky. She seemed to see the misty emperor standing on the top of the sky. Oh, after the class, she opened her red lips and said in a cold voice. Mu Wechen, you fool, to seize the emperor's orthodoxy, destroy the emperor's court, and the emperor at a loss will treat you as the only confidant. You dare to betray this emperor. But since the emperor has been reborn, then wait for it. After the emperor rebuilds for 3,000 years, I will ask you, the goddess, to go down to Yellow Springs. Under her cold voice, the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped by 3 points. Slowly, Yi Qingluo calmed down. Jade's fingertips lightly touched Vermilion's thoughts flowing on the railing. She began to plan her own revenge with the memory of her own body. 28 years old, the peak of the Holy Realm. Physique, extremely ice sheer a body. Without emotional experience, Yuan Yin still exists. Cold personality, June martial god nation, palace master of Tianyi army mansion. I am considered honorable. I have military power in my hand, so there is value for use and a lot of room for operation. The righteous girl Yi Ziji, the body of Tianfang. The body of Tianfang, a god-level physique, I didn't expect that there would be one in this mere lower realm. And she became own daughter, it's really interesting. Alright, from today, this emperor will be Yi Qingluo. Looking at it overall, she is quite satisfied with this body. Especially the original owner of this body is a pure-hearted woman like her, and Yuan Yin still exists. Otherwise she will lose out. Just as her thoughts were turning and planning for the future, Yuehan, the maid of the Tianyi army palace, hurriedly came to the Wangyu Tower. Palace Lord, young Palace Lord of the Shen's army mansion Ling Tian begs to see Miss. Upon hearing this, Yi Qingluo frowned. In her memory, the young master Ling Tian and own daughter of Shen's army mansion are childhood sweethearts. Moreover, my daughter seems to have a special feeling for Ling Tian. Where is Big Miss? Yi Qingluo asked casually. Ah. Yu Han was stunned for a moment. Then he asked carefully. Palace Lord, 3 days ago, didn't you ask Miss to return to the Master's Gate? So she should be in the Misty Ice Palace now. Hearing this, she has frivolous eyebrows. Looking back in memory, Yi Ziwan seems to have been carried away by Yi Qingluo herself. And Yi Qingluo's purpose is to warn Ling Tian to stay away from her own daughter during the period when Yi Ziwan is no longer there. It is best to let the two of you never see each other again. Judging from memory, Yi Qingluo dislikes Ling Tian very much. After all, the Cultivation Base, one of the 4 major military palaces, the young master, Cultivation Base is mediocre and has no scheming. Compared with Ling Jian, who was also the Shen's military mansion, the difference was not even a bit different. And most importantly, Yi Qingluo hopes that her daughter will focus on cultivation and Tianyi Junfu, and stay away from men in the world. Because Yi Ziwan possesses the body of Tianfang, men will only affect her speed of practice. After careful consideration, Yi Qingluo planned to personally break the contact between Ling Tian and Yi Ziwan. She hopes to kill the possibility of the future development of the two in the cradle. Of course, all of this must be based on the absence of Yi Ziwan. What a big show of hitting Mandarin ducks. Fine, since this woman, I want to do this. Then, this emperor will help you, and this can be regarded as the return of this emperor to your body. She nodded, and a cold and silent color flashed in a pair of clear blue and crystal clear eyes. Huliu Qingqi gave orders to the maid Yuehan. Call Ling Tian to Wangyu Tower. The lord of the palace has something to tell him. Yes, Palace Lord, young master Ling Tian, please go to Wangyu Tower. After military maid Yuehan brought Ling Tian to Wangyu Tower, she hurriedly retreated without explaining much. Lao Yuehan is here. Ling Tian looked at Yu Han's back and nodded. Yuehan didn't take him to the Tianfang courtyard where Yi Ziwan was. Instead, he took him to the moon tower of Yi Jun Mansion that day. Is it possible that Yi Ziji is upstairs in Wangyu? For some reason, looking at the top of Wangyu Tower, he had an ominous premonition in his heart. But if it comes, it's safe. Now he has no retreat. Time is passing, in any case he must complete this task within an hour. Only in this way can one continue to survive in this fantasy world. Otherwise, he would be dead. Shaking his head, Ling Tian suppressed the anxiety in his heart, raised his foot and walked towards Wangyu Tower. Tianyi Army Mansion, Wangyu Tower. The moonlight was bright and beautiful, and the beautiful moonlight fell on Wangyu Tower. On a mahogany table, a pot of tea was brewed on the table. On top of this, the bright moonlight, the sky is full of stars, covering the sky. Below this is the magnificent scenery of the entire imperial capital of the Great Zhou. And in front of the mahogany table, there was a woman sitting. Her long icy blue hair fell down her waist, and a luxurious white snow phoenix dress was waving the floor. The waist was tied by a snow-white silk belt, and the strangely thin waist was perfectly outlined. Under the moonlight, it fell on her beautiful fairy face that was enough to overwhelm the world, beautiful and stunning. For Ling Tian, who has already done a good job of psychological construction, his heartbeat suddenly missed a beat. She is not Yi Ziwan, but Yi Qingluo. You came. Yi Qingluo's beautiful willow eyebrows slanted slightly and the tone was very flat. Ling Tian has seen it, Miss Qingluo. Ling Tian did not call her palace lord, nor did she call her senior, but Qingluo miss. This is because Yi Qingluo is the mother of Yi Ziwan. But in fact, his age is only 9 years older than Yi Ziwan, and 8 years older than himself. So Ling Tian has always called Yi Qingluo miss, and today is no exception. Yi Qingluo nodded. Then she took a sip of tea quietly. I thought about it for a moment and asked, Ling Tian, are you here today for Ziwan? After all, I don't wait for Ling Tian to answer. Yi Qingluo's beautiful eyes shot out a soul-satisfying light. At the same time, he said in a cold tone, whether it is or not, I will remind you. Zi Yuan, she has the heavenly phoenix divine body. At only 19 years old, Cultivation Base reached the peak of Xingxuan. And she leads the 300,000 Dai Yi Daijin that I gave her. She is a veritable lady of heaven. It is the future and hope of my heavenly leaf army mansion. So, young palace master Ling Tian, please go back. She and you are not in the same world after all. Don't come again in the future. Upon hearing this, Ling Tian was taken aback. The words are already very clear. Yi Qinglo didn't want to have any contact with her righteous daughter Yi Ziwan in the future. So warn yourself in advance. Is this going to beat the Mandarin ducks? Ling Tian heart. However, this is not what he cares about now. If you have not completed the novice task, I'm afraid I'll have to die tonight. It's a matter of life and death. So now he must see Yi Ziwan's side. Call. Ling Tian took a breath and asked in a deep voice. Miss Qing Luo, is Zi Yuan in the mansion? Can you? No. Yi Qinglo didn't wait for Ling Tian to finish, she flatly refused. Ling Tian couldn't help but sink when hearing the words. According to memory, I visited Tianyi Army Mansion 10 times before, and I would never see Yi Qinglo 10 times. However, at this critical moment, she was caught upright. This luck is really, beat the dog. How should I be good now? Ling Tian's fist's hand is getting tighter and tighter. It seems that no matter whether Yi Zi is in the house or not, he can't see her anymore. And he only has 1 hour. Now obviously there is not much left. Yuehan, see off. Yi Qinglo spoke in a cold voice and issued a eviction order. Master Ling, please go back. Maid Yuehan walked to Ling Tian and spoke softly. Ah, Ling Tian sighed. At this moment, his footsteps. Suddenly, a bold idea flashed in his mind. When this idea surged, he fixed Ling Tian's feet firmly on the Wangyu Tower. It is even more like a nightmare lingering in Ling Tian's heart for a long time. If Yi Ziwan is not in the Tianyi Army Mansion, so, maybe you can change your mind. Ling Tian suddenly raised her head and stared at Yi Qinglo in front of her. A pair of eyes are getting brighter and brighter. Boom boom boom. At the same time, his heartbeat began to accelerate violently with the bold idea in his mind. Yi Qinglo frowned her beautiful willow eyebrows, raised her beautiful eyes and looked at Ling Tian, who stood in the same place and was a little strange. A hint of doubt flashed under his eyes. What does this guy want to do? And she faintly felt that there seemed to be something in Ling Tian's eyes, changed. Young Master Ling Tian, don't you understand what the palace lord said? You and Ziwan have no future. Are you still entangled? Yi Qingluo's tone was a bit bad and cold. Call. Ling Tian took a deep breath. Then he shook his head and said. Qingluo miss said very clearly. I understand too. Then he changed his conversation. But, what should you have misunderstood? Ah, Yi Qinglo sneered. She started to feel a little irritable and impatient. According to her own character, Ling Tian's palm would have been turned into ashes long ago. However, she is now Yi Qinglo, so she can't come by her own temperament. At least until she is full of wings, she must have the necessary disguise. She forcibly suppressed the killing intent in her heart. A pair of ice eyes gleamed with extremely dangerous light looking at Ling Tian. Red lips light up. Misunderstand. Can you tell me what I misunderstood? Ah, Ling Tian sighed. A pair of clear eyes flashed with light that Yi Qinglo couldn't understand. Then slowly speak. Qingluo miss. I met Ziwan at the age of 9. 10 years of friendship. The world is a lesson. Oh, Yi Qinglo asked with frivolous eyebrows, her voice somewhat mocking. So you have no affection for Zi Yuan? That's right. Ling Tian nodded without hesitation. Snort. Yi Qinglo snorted coldly, her voice a little impatient. She waved at Ling Tian. In that case, that would be considered too much consideration for this seat. Young Master Ling Tian, please come back. If you still don't leave, then you will be at your own risk. She made the last visit order. And she didn't believe a word of what Ling Tian said. Hearing that, Ling Tian's look remains unchanged. Instead, he boldly took 2 steps towards Yi Qinglo, and looked directly at her eyes and said, I want to tell you. I don't have love with Ziwan. But after all, I have a guilty conscience. Have a guilty conscience? What does he mean? Yi Qinglo frowned loose eyebrows. I don't understand what Ling Tian wants to say. Upon seeing this, Ling Tian knew that the opportunity was here. Then he took a deep breath of cool air. Then closed his eyes, his tone was soft, and he spoke like summer breeze. Love doesn't know where it started, but it keeps going deep. Dare to ask, do you believe in love at first sight? Dare to ask, do you know how to like someone you should never like? 10 years, what kind of experience is it? Yi Qingluo wrinkled her beautiful eyebrows when she heard the words. What love at first sight? What 10 years? She really didn't understand a word, so she asked in a cold voice. Ling Tian, speak straight if you have something to say. Silence. Ling Tian was silent for a long while, then opened his eyes and said faintly. I met Ziwan when I was 10 years old. But did you forget? I and you meet that year too. The day we met, when we first saw. Since then, I can't look away. What? Yi Qingluo's stunningly glamorous face was shocked, her pupils slightly opened. Is this kid confessing to himself? She got it. She finally understood what Ling Tian's mouth has a guilty conscience. It turns out that the person Ling Tian likes is not Yi Ziwan. Instead, Yi Qingluo, and I like it for a whole decade. Ling Tian is 20 this year, so count it like this. Did you really like it when you were 10? At this moment, her head is really buzzing. Just now she had noticed that Ling Tian's eyes looked something wrong with her, it seemed that something had changed. But she never expected that it turned out to be, filial piety has deteriorated. She leans on the railing, her arms around her chest. A pair of coldly prestigious eyes are locked on Ling Tian's body coldly. The lips that look like rose petals pursed an icy arc and yelled. Quote. You, indulge, wanton. Ling Tian, how dare you? You, do you know who I am? Under the bright moon, her stunning cold, arrogant and pretty face was full of condensation. Ling Tian confessed that Yi Qingluo is true. But now she is Yi Qingluo. Tens of thousands of years ago, she ended the era of the gods and led the Devil Dao camp to suppress the Shinto for thousands of years. 9 restricted areas are crawling under her feet. 100,000 stars worship her as their master. The gods and Buddhas, a woman feared by billions of cultivators. And the very weak little guy in front of me, dare to, even plot against her. Is this taking the courage of the bear heart and leopard? Ling Tian looked at Yi Qingluo who was angry and laughed. Take a deep breath, close your eyes slowly. The throat rolled. With mixed emotions. Knowledge. Of course I know who you are. You are my friend's mother. Lang Han. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the task. Confession object. Cold. Mission difficulty. Highest. Ding. System prompt. Novice treasure chest is being upgraded. Ding. Treasure box reward upgrade completed to advanced treasure box. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the highest level treasure chest reward. Ling Tian listened to a series of system prompts. He opened his eyes suddenly and opened his mouth slightly. WTF. Isn't the person who confessed Yi Qingluo, Yi Zi's mother-in-law? Why is the system judged as cold? At this moment, he just felt a little confused in his head. And many more. Cold. The moment Ling Tian thought of the meaning behind this short name. His heart twitched suddenly. When she looked at Yi Qingluo again, her eyes changed completely. Cold. As a loyal fan of God and Demon, an old player in closed beta. He naturally knows that Lang Han is in this fantasy cultivation game. The most ruthless and unfeeling is also the first epic boss in the expansion. In the game plot setting, Lang Han is the Devil Dao female emperor of the Devil Dao camp, the Emperor Xie Yu. She once led the Devil Dao demons to suppress the entire Shinto camp for 10,000 years. And the world of God and Demon, ruled by her for 10,000 years, is called the Evil Moon Era. It just so happens that Ling Tian, like most people, chose the Shinto camp that is opposed to Lang Han when testing this game. And in the following days after choosing the camp, Ling Tian and all the test players have witnessed what is called God and Demon, the most terrifying woman in history. She used to be like a world-shaking army god, leading the Devil Dao people to break through the 3,000 star realms of the gods in one day. She once became an incarnation to kill Demon Fairy, raised her hand to slaughter the primordial divine empire, leaving the tens of billions of cultivator dead without a place to be buried. She once stood on the long river of time, with one enemy and personally extinguished the 4 taboo gods who were going against the current and killed them from the future. Even in the final battle of life, she split through the ages with a single sword, covered the sky with her finger, and defeated the gods and Buddhas under the sword. Finally, the closed beta of God and Demon also ended with the cold fall. As we all know, Devil Dao lost. But she was cold and undefeated. And she was naturally rated as the most terrifying and amazing villain boss in the history of all fantasy games by thousands of game players. None of them. It turned out to be her. How could it be her? She was born again. Ling Tian stood a little messy in the wind. But soon, he shook his head to restore clarity. He can travel through this fantasy world, so what is impossible? Moreover, the crux of the problem is not here. It's that he just confessed to the most terrifying villain boss in this world, just now. Roar. Strength. Thanks. You must know that Ling Tian had personally experienced the cold and dark rule when he was making the internal beta player. Therefore, Ling Tian clearly knows how terrible this woman is. Just confessed to her how dangerous he is. It's a ghost. Ling Tian rubbed her eyebrows. However, look at a good place. In any case, at least I have successfully obtained the highest level system treasure chest reward to the advanced treasure chest. This is also a blessing in misfortune. Dash. At this moment, the bright moon is in the sky, and the sky is full of stars. Mochizuki upstairs. Ling Tian and Lang Han stand opposite each other. The clothes are floating. The picture is beautiful. Ling Tian stood tall and looked up at the cold. Looks like home to death. And Lang Han is leaning on the railing. A pair of beautiful eyes looked up from top to bottom. Ling Tian's emotional light flickered in a pair of beautiful eyes. After a long time, she seemed to calm down. She slowly opened her mouth and snorted. Ling Tian, you know, I am your friend's mother. You guy knows how to write these 4 words. Listening to her blaming voice. Ling Tian on the contrary breathed a sigh of relief quietly. Because he could feel that Lang Han had no intention of killing him at this moment. This is probably because Lang Han still doesn't want to reveal his identity, but wants to continue to play the identity of Yi Qingluo. That being the case, it is fortunate. So next. What I have to do is to leave this dangerous woman as quickly as possible. Therefore, we must continue to act. Call. Ling Tian slowly spit out a spit of breath. He looked at the cold, with a bitter smile at the corner of his mouth. 10 years. I knew I had no relationship with you. But, it's uncontrollable. Indulge in it, wanting to be with you forever. Perhaps, I am too greedy. After all, Ling Tian sighed. The voice is earnest and lonely. The expression is sincere and sad. There were still tears flickering in his eyes. What is alive as an innocent boy who loses information about love after being hurt by a scumbag? After that, he turned and left without hesitation. But what Ling Tian didn't expect was. It was his performance that caused Lang Han to move other thoughts. Yeah, this little guy is really infatuated. Such a person, if he is slightly adjusted, he will be able to live and die for the Emperor in the future. Besides, there are 800,000 divine strategies behind the little guy. This is a great boost. Thinking of this, 2 bright rays of light bloomed in the cold beautiful eyes. And many more. There was a cold and magnetic voice like a cold Oni-san in my ears. Ling Tian's footsteps stopped in place, and the fist's hand was tightened tighter and tighter. The heart in the chest thumped and thumped. Staying by this moody female devil's side for an extra second is a bit more dangerous. But even so, he still calmly turned around slowly. Raised the clear eyes and looked at Lang Han quietly. There was a light of sorrow that was hard to heal, as if he had suffered a heavy emotional injury. And Lang Han is holding hands, walking slowly towards Ling Tian. So close. Ling Tian noticed that there was still a gold leaf tattooed on her snow clothes. Perhaps because it is too large, the patterns are squeezed into shape. She moved a little, then trembling. At this moment, the cold red lips pursed slightly and slowly said. Ling Tian, I know your heart. But this seat has already decided to be alone and to accompany the Shinto. The relationship between men and women is never in my consideration. Hearing this, Ling Tian's tight heart relaxed. He thought to himself, you devil is no longer in my consideration. Who would hope that his own girlfriend is a cruel, ruthless monster? And at this moment, take the cold footsteps one step further. The distance between the two is very close, so close that their toes are about to touch each other. And her exquisite and glamorous face appeared extremely clearly in Ling Tian's eyes. Stunning in an instant, seeing her talk a turn, Lan Qi lightly spit on Ling Tian's face faintly. For the sake of your infatuation with this seat, you and I can't be partners. But it's okay if we can get along in another way. Ling Tian, cough. Ling Tian asked in a daze. What do you mean? After a cold thought, he nodded and said, you and Ziwan have been childhood sweethearts since childhood. So this seat can make an exception to accept you as a disciple. From now on, as long as you are here, it will be impossible to humiliate your Shen's military mansion. Even, this seat can help you truly control the Shen's military mansion. How do you feel? Ling Tian's expression remained unchanged after hearing the words, but she exclaimed in her heart. This devil is too thief. What kind of person Lang Han is? Ling Tian knows very well. What this woman wants is not to be a cheap teacher for herself. What she wants is to help herself take control of the Shen's military mansion. She can occupy herself and Shen's Junfu together as her own in one go. After all, in the original game plotline, she has fallen as a villain. But since she is now reborn and returned, with her ambition and strength, presumably there will be big moves soon. Return to 9 heavens. Overthrow the rule of the Shinto camp. Revive the light of Devil Dao. Gao, Ling Tian has not dared to continue thinking. The woman in front of me can be said to be the hidden behind-the-scenes man in the entire God and Demon world today. What she wants to do is afraid that it can change the pattern of the entire world today. It is precisely because of this that she must be absolutely loyal to her strength and influence at this moment. She accepts herself as a disciple, but she is attracted to the infatuated personality she created. A man will always work hard for the woman he loves, isn't he? So she wanted to add herself to her camp. If she had obtained herself, she would have obtained the entire Shen's military mansion. This is really good calculation. Just as Ling Tian's thoughts turned rapidly, the system prompt sounded in the ears. Ding. According to the situation, the host triggers system tasks. Choose 1, reject Lengan's request to accept disciples, turn around and leave, and get 10 million purple profound crystals. Choose 2, agree to Lengan's request to accept disciples, perceive the changes, and gain the insight of magic skills. Listen to the sound of the system prompt. Ling Tian thought a little. If you refuse the cold request for apprenticeship, this is undoubtedly the option with the least risk and high return. You must know that Purple Profound Crystal is the highest level of Profound Crystal on the Divine Profound Continent, and it is also a token for trading. The entire Martial Emperor can only produce 10 million Purple Profound Crystals in 1 year. With this wealth, it is equivalent to having 1 year's income from the Kingdom of Martial God. Plus the highest level treasure box rewards that you get system rewards. If you want to grow up, then it's really a good choice. However, compared to stable development, he is now more inclined to seek wealth and wealth. He actually doesn't want to grow up honestly, but because his current situation did not give him this opportunity at all. Now the Emperor of the Martial Emperor dynasty wants to control the annexation of the military mansion of Shen's. Not surprisingly, the Dog Emperor will always put pressure on Shen's Junfu's moves. I simply don't have the time to hide and develop steadily. So fortunately, he might as well break the boat and sink the boat with Lang Han, the Empress Devil Dao, to overthrow the imperial power of the Martial God Kingdom. She is cold and wanting to take advantage of herself. But I can also use her in reverse. Taking advantage of each other means taking advantage of each other. This is a rare opportunity. Call. Ling Tian thought of this. He has made a choice in the bottom of his heart. Then Ling Tian smiled slightly at Lang Han. In that case, I would like to ask the respected master to take care of you in the future. Seeing the cold, willow eyebrows frivolous, she didn't expect Ling Tian to be so straightforward, and even directly agreed. But she noticed that Ling Tian did not kneel to her. But she didn't care. After all, Ling Tian loves Yi Qinglo deeply. How can you change the role so quickly and respect her as a master? So don't kneel if you don't kneel. The cold reaches the head softly, and the red lips lightly open. From now on, you and I will be masters and apprentices. This emperor, this palace lord will take care of you. But this seat is your master after all, so you can't think about it anymore from today. Otherwise, I will be very embarrassed. Hearing this, Ling Tian nodded lightly, then lowered his head to speak. I will try my best. The two stood opposite each other in the moonlight. Both of these people are acting. And the acting is pretty good. At this time, Ling Tian's ears rang the crisp sound of the system. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Eye of Divine Skills Insight. Ding. May I ask whether the host wants to use the Eye of Insight for the cold? Ling Tian felt tight when he heard the words, but spoke without hesitation. Use. Zheng. A very mysterious light shines from the bottom of Ling Tian's eyes. A light screen appeared in his mind. It's all cold information. Name. Lang Han. Identity. Rebirth, Evil Moon Empress, Lord of Devil Dao, founder of Black Rose Organization Demon Girl, Lord of Tianyi Army Mansion belongs to the original owner Yi Qingluo. Cultivation Base. The Peak of Saints belongs to the original owner Yi Qingluo. Physique. Ice Phoenix Divine Body belongs to the original owner Yi Qingluo. Faction. Devil Dao Camp. True Physique. Chaos Body of Devil Heart. Fetters. Evil Heart against the world's Dao Body. Enemy. Mu Wechen, the Empress of Moon. Target. Return to Nine Heavens, overthrow the rule of the Shinto camp, and revenge the goddess Mu Wechen. Short-term plan. To overthrow the Emperor of the Martial God, seize the Martial King's vitality and luck, and reshape the chaotic body of the Devil's Heart. Hint. The skill level is not enough, so we cannot provide more information to the host for the time being. Take back your sight. Ling Tian's eyes flickered non-stop. With this Eye of Insight, he seems to have taken a step ahead in the game with Lang Han, the devil. At the same time, his eyes stopped for a long time in the column of fetters. If I remember correctly, bond is a unique setting in God and Demon. This can be understood as two complementary physique bloodlines given by God. If a couple of men and women who are fettered by each other get married and join together, then the blood, physique, strength, soul of both sides. It can be said that a qualitative transformation will occur in all aspects. But billions of people in the world, the probability of encountering a person with own fate in the boundless sea of destiny is really low. Even the female Emperor Devil Dao, who has dominated for an era, is cold and hasn't found the person who owns the choice of heaven, right? What's wrong? Why do you look at this seat? Lang Han frowned and looked at Ling Tian as he looked at him in a daze and asked. No. Nothing. I'm just a little tired. Ling Tian came back. A feeling of exhaustion hits my heart. This Eye of Insight is worthy of a magical skill. My own weak cultivation base can actually view the information of the saint-level powerhouse. But if you want to see more, you need the Ascension skill level. But in any case, Ling Tian knew the key point. What this devil wants is the golden dragon of luck for the Emperor's empire. And as we all know, if you want to take the golden dragon of luck in a country, then you have to kill the companions of the golden dragon of luck. That is, the Emperor Martial Emperor. And it just so happens that the own enemy is also the Emperor Martial Emperor who wants to annex the military mansion and kill himself. So Lang Han is in line with his goal, and he is actually sitting in the same boat. Quietly relieved, Ling Tian hurriedly bid farewell to Lang Han and walked towards the Shen's military mansion. Now he desperately wants to open the disordered treasure chest he has obtained. See what the highest level system reward is. Looking at Ling Tian's back in a hurry, Ling An frowned and muttered to himself. There was a light in his eyes just now. It seems something is wrong. But what exactly is that light? Shen's military mansion. Ling Tian returned to the own courtyard. He suppressed his excitement and hurriedly opened the disorder level treasure chest he had obtained. Ding. Congratulations to the host for opening the chaotic treasure chest. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the weapon reward Ghost Flute Destroyer. Ding. Congratulations to the host for winning the mall reward Wanji Mall. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the cultivation base reward for the cultivation base. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the physical rewards. Listen to the 5 system prompts in your ear. Ling Tian looked at one by one. Ghost Flute Desire. This is a super weapon with no level restrictions. The power of this weapon will grow with the growth of the host cultivation base. And there are 3 dementing songs in the flute: Requiem, Broken Soul, and Tribulation. Broken Soul song is the most powerful, can crush the enemy's Hun and Po, and turn it into his most loyal puppet, just listen to his orders. Requiem is the strangest song, it can drive the dead cultivator to fight for it. The soul-robbing song is the most evil in evil. As the saying goes, when the soul-robbing sounds, parents will raise them for nothing. Wanji Mall. This is a system-specific mall. Among them are the cultivation technique of the heavens and the world, elixir, pets, weapons, props and so on, all the commodities that can be purchased. The king cultivation base is the simplest and rude reward. Ling Tian began to cultivate at the age of 7, and it was not until he was 20 that he could reach the cultivation base of the star profound realm. And as soon as this cultivation base reward arrives, it immediately promotes own cultivation base to the status of the king. It has crossed 2 realms, and the most important thing is that there are no side effects. This is simply a proper opening. As for the evil heart against the world. When seeing these words, Ling Tian almost jumped up excitedly. Because this physique is one of the strongest physiques in the god and demon world setting. It has the power of rebelling against the laws of chaos. Ling Tian with this physique can dual cultivation of gods and demons from immediately. You can switch between the power of Shinto power and Devil Dao to fight at will. We must know that in addition to the demon heart chaos body in this world, now Ling Tian can also cultivate the gods and demons at the same time. The most important thing is the evil heart rebelling against the world, and there are 7 realms of rebelling against the world. Every moment when the gate is opened, the power of the Shinto and Devil Dao in Ling Tian's body will be melted once. Thus burst out unparalleled power against the world. Although the 7 major borders are currently in a sealed state, they cannot be activated for the time being. But Ling Tian knows a word. The day when the 7 realm gates are released is the time when the gods and demons of the heavens surrender. So if you want to conquer this fantasy world, then unblocking the 7 great barriers is the key to the key. Sick of it. It deserves to be one of the strongest physiques of god and demon. Ling Tian muttered to herself, the confidence in her heart has already increased greatly. And at this moment, his expression was stagnant. And many more. In other words, the evil heart is against the world, the body. There seems to be something wrong. Seems to be fettered by someone's physique. Then he suddenly thought of something and his eyes suddenly shook. I couldn't help but slapped my forehead and called out a name. Cold. When I was observing the cold and cold with the eye of insight in the Tianyi military mansion just now, Ling Tian saw that the cold physique was the devil's chaos body. And the fetters of the devil's chaotic body is not the evil heart's world-defying Dao body that he has obtained. What does it mean? Ling Tian's expression was a bit stiff and stayed in place for a long time. Vaguely, he seemed to smell an unusual smell. Finally, there are some murmurs that didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Good guy. I just established a harmonious relationship between teacher and apprentice with the devil. Now being hinted to push her down. Or, was pushed down by her. Cough. No doubt. Either way. It's really treason. It's so bad. Ding. The system prompts that the task panel has been updated, please confirm as soon as possible. Just when Ling Tian was stunned, the sound of the system prompt in the ear awakened him. He quickly opened the task panel for system update. A light screen appeared in front of my eyes. Main Mission 1. Marry the evil moon Empress Lang Han Fetter. Task description. The host and Ling An are fetters, the marriage is chosen by heaven, and the match made by heaven. Task reward. Reward unknown. Time limit. 3 years. Task penalty. Deduct all the host's cultivation base, reclaim all system rewards obtained by the host. Ling Tian's face changed slightly when he looked at this first main task. Sure enough, just as I guessed it. This main task is really to take down his villain Devil Dao Empress Master. This is the legendary marrying home if you can't beat them. Ling Tian spread his hands and face with helplessness. But if you think about it, there is nothing wrong with it. It's just that Ling Tian is a little speechless. If you fail, your cultivation base and your current rewards will be gone. I don't even have the right to refuse. Because this task can lie in the own task list. This means that no matter what, this task must be done by itself. This is simply to a thief. Ling Tian smiled bitterly and rubbed his eyebrows. Do you want to say that this task is difficult? Of course it's hard. And it's very difficult. After all, Ling Tian had no idea how to turn this cruel Devil Dao Empress into his wife. Apart from the fetters of each other's physique, she and herself are now connected as a master and apprentice. And, they are still superficial mentors and apprentices. Actually use each other. This seems too difficult. Shook his head. Ling Tian took a deep breath and calmed down the mood and decided to look down. Main task 2. Kill the Emperor of the Martial God Kingdom, the King Xiaoyao the King Slayer. Task description. Jun Xiaoyao regards Shen's Junfu as a thorn in the eye, and the host as the 7th in the assassination list of Jun Xiaoyao. If he does not die, the host will die. Mission penalty. None. Task reward. Golden Dragon of Fortune plus Destiny gift pack. This task is not bad. Ling Tian nodded. Not to mention the rewards. Even if there is no reward, that Jun Xiaoyao is also dead. Ling Tian knows what a precarious situation he and Shen's Junfu are in now. Today, the 4 major military mansions of the martial god country are in addition to the Shen's military mansion. There are also 3 military palaces, the 10,000 Swords Army Mansion, the Flame Army Mansion, and the Tianyi Army Mansion. Behind these 3 military palaces are the support of the 3 most powerful spiritual gods in the kingdom of Martial God, Tibetan Sword Villa, Phoenix Shenzong, and Misty Ice Palace. And the June Martial Emperor room represented by Jun Xiaoyao also has strong support from the Guardian of the Kingdom. So, among the 4 major military palaces, only the Shen's military palace does not have the support of powerful practice sect. If it weren't for the Shen's army house, the Shen's army with the largest army of 800,000 in the entire empire. Plus Ling Tian's big sis Ling Yao stood up at the critical moment. The Avatar female martial sage personally led 800,000 divine plan troops to guard the border against the enemy country, the Feathered Empire. In one fell swoop, he won the support of the cultivator of martial god and many neutral forces. I am afraid that the Shen's military mansion has long been kicked out of the 4 major military mansion. However, Jun Xiaoyao saw that there was no support from the top practice sect behind the Shen's military mansion. That's why he wanted to secretly annex the Shen's army mansion, and wanted to control the 800,000 Shen's army in his own palm. But he was also due to the name of the Shen's military mansion as protecting the country, so he didn't force it, he wanted to control it secretly. Jun Xiaoyao clearly knew that as long as he survived in this world for a day, he would not be able to successfully control the Shen's military mansion. Now the situation is very clear, Ling Tian and Jun Xiaoyao can only save one of them. Ling Tian's eyes flashed with icy cold light. At this moment, for some reason, he didn't have any tension to oppose the emperor of a country, but he was excited and expectant in his heart. When he saw the last task left in the task list of the system, he couldn't help but frown. Main Task 3. Kill Ling Jian, a traitor from Shen's military mansion, and modify the host's mortal fate, rebellious fate. Mission description. Ling Jian is undercover from Jun Xiaoyao's military mansion. If you want to kill the host instead, please kill the host. Task reward. 10,000 mandate reward. Reminder. Destiny value can be used to purchase goods in Wanji Mall. It seems that killing Ling Jian is my first step in this world. Ling Tian shook his hand and felt the powerful profound strength in his body that only belonged to the rank of the king. He couldn't help but look up at the brightening sky, the smile on his face gradually deepened. Tonight is his date with Princess Wei Yang. To be honest, he really looked forward to it. June Martial God Capital Palace, Wuji Hall. In the extremely luxurious palace, 9 dragon pillars stood there, majestic and terrifying. A tall man stood on the great hall with his hands in his hands. A luxurious black dragon robe illustrates his identity as the 95 supreme ruler of martial god. He is exactly the emperor of the martial god country, the emperor of the Emperor Xiaoyao. And his highness was kneeling, a handsome young man in a black outfit. Your Majesty, everything will be over tonight. Ling Jian spoke with a trembling voice. The humble attitude from head to toe shows that he fears the nobleman above the great hall to the extreme. The mere wisp of imperial prestige on the man made him breathless. Jun Xiaoyao nodded. A ray of cold light flashed through a pair of extremely majestic dark eyes. If Ling Tian is dead, then Ling Yao will definitely rush back to Wudu as soon as possible. When the time comes, you can just hand over all your Weeping Blood Tower directly. Don't worry about the consequences. Ling Jian nodded and then hesitated to speak. Then Your Majesty, the marriage between your subordinates and Ling Yao miss. Ha ha ha. Jun Xiaoyao laughed and said. Rest assured. The Emperor will do as you wish. When this matter is completely over, the Emperor will make an order to make a marriage contract for you and Ling Yao. It's just that after you get married, whether you can completely control the Shen's military mansion depends on your own ability. Upon hearing this, Ling An flashed an inconceivable joy and enthusiasm in his eyes. He suppressed his excitement and then spoke. Your Majesty, please rest assured, your subordinates will definitely live up to the grace of God. Tianyi Army Mansion, Wang Yu upstairs, coldly looking at the bright moon above the sky with his hands holding hands. Moonlight falls down, shining on her stunning peerless beauty is extremely cold and glamorous. And in her hand was a note from the Tianyi Military Aircraft Intelligence Office. A line of small characters is clearly written on it. Tonight, Ling Tian is in danger. Snort. Lang Han snorted and pursed his lips, pursing an icy arc, mockingly. Now Ling Tian is a child of the Emperor, and the Shen's army mansion is also an asset of the Emperor. A group of cats and dogs also want to snatch things from the Emperor. Really looking for death. Having said that, her figure slowly disappeared into the moon tower, disappearing like the wind. The bright moon hangs high. Although the night is late, but Wudu, known as the city that never sleeps, still has 3,000 lights. Every restaurant, every street Taoist comes and goes, and it's so lively. The camera moves to the south of South City. It's a bit out of step with the noisy and lively Wudu city, and it's very quiet. Ling An was dressed in black, standing in a shadow with a cold face, exuding an extremely cold aura. And behind him there are also two tall black shadows. Both of them wore platinum masks and looked like the ghosts of the underworld. These two are the deputy host of the Weeping Blood Tower, as well as the right arms of Ling An, Yan Yi and Yan Er. Landlord. According to the spy's report, Ling Tian rushed to Wulan immediately after returning from the Tianyi army mansion. Yan Yi reminded in a low voice. Ha ha. Ling An sneered when he heard the words and said. The fish has taken the bait. Set off. After that, he walked out of the Shishuelo headquarters with Yan Yiner and headed towards Wulan. What can be seen is dozens of ghostly black shadows flashing out and following him, admiring him as the monarch of the dark night and going with him. Under the moonlight, the golden ghost masks on the faces of these dark shadows were particularly terrifying. Outside Wudu City, Wulan. Wangyu Forest is a peach forest. On weekdays, there will be many couples meeting and discussing the truth here. But most of the couples who come here are basically, I understand you're pretending to be reserved, and you understand my unruly plot. So I often hear some strange sounds that make people blush and heartbeat. But today's Wulan is exceptionally quiet. The wind passes by the forest slightly. The sound of breaking through the air sounded one after another. A large number of dark shadows descend. Where is Ling Tian? Ling An glanced around with condensed eyes. Except for the peach blossoms floating around, not even a ghost was seen. At this moment, a black figure stepped forward. Report to the landlord that after the subordinates followed Ling Tian to Wulan, he disappeared. How can this be? Ling An frowned into a schwanzi. The assassin of the Weeping Blood building he dispatched to follow Ling Tian is a powerful person in the Xingxuan 5 realms, and it is impossible to lose sight of it. Original. Should we scatter to find? Yan Yi spoke in a low voice. Yes, Ling Tian only has the cultivation base of the Xingxuan realm, and this time we are the strongest elites in the Weeping Blood building, and the cultivation base is all above the Xingxuan 5 realm. As long as any one of us catches him, we can easily kill him. Yan Er also spoke. Ling Jianxi lined up, nodded. Now there is only this way. And just when he was about to give orders, a breeze blows. He shuddered inexplicably. There was an extremely bad premonition in my heart. And at this moment, a flute sounded slowly, and the huge Wulan became audible. At the moment the sound of the flute enveloped Wulan. Ling An, Yan Yiner, and dozens of elites from the Star Profound realm in the Weeping Blood Tower's expressions changed drastically. The hairs behind him stand upside down. Everyone looked around Wulan in horror. Darkness seemed to be rolling over there, and infinitely heavy shadows enveloped them. They have never heard such a weird tune. The voice of Xiao Ku seems to have an abyss-like magic power. The entire peach blossom floating in the void was rendered bloody. Even the bright moon on the sky has become a blood moon. In this Shaoyan, they felt horrified that they were gradually losing control of their bodies. As if a knife cut their wrists and pierced their hearts. The blood is flowing out of the body drop by drop. The body has also become colder and colder. They can clearly feel that their own life is slowly passing by in this flute sound. The most terrifying thing is that this feeling is actually right. What tune is this? Why do I feel my life is passing by? My heart was cut open. Help, help. Dozens of astral profound realms weeping blood tower killers began to shout hoarsely. They are all well-trained and talented killers. They can face the enemy calmly, even if they die in battle. But now they don't even see the shadow of the enemy. I just feel that life is passing, and the soul is being enveloped and swallowed by darkness. This feeling of slowly falling into the abyss is far more terrifying than death. Who is it? Who the hell is it? Get out of the landlord. Ling Jian's hand holding the sword trembled. His eyes scanned the surroundings. Even he himself didn't notice his red eyes. And at this moment, the sound of the flute that was like an abyss slowly stopped. There was a sound of footsteps. Da da da. The sound of footsteps is unhurried. But it seemed to be on his heart. Every step actually matched the frequency of their heartbeat perfectly. Ling Jian stared at the depths of Wulan with blood-red eyes. A tall figure slowly appeared there. When he saw the face of the visitor, his pupils suddenly shook. You, it turned out to be you. Ling Jian's voice was hoarse and unbelievable like a beast. Moonlight falls. Falling on that person's handsome and unparalleled face, he looked untainted and looked like an immortal. He is familiar with this face. It is Ling Tian. It's me. Ling Tian smiled genially at him. How could it be you? Is that your masterpiece just now? Ling Jian's voice trembled a little. He moved his gaze down to see the black flute in Ling Tian's hand. The heart couldn't help but twitch. Looking at the flute is the same as looking at the abyss. What do you mean? Ling Tian looked at Ling Jian quietly, and there was no sadness or joy in a pair of clear eyes, only the coldness that made people fearful. Kill him for me. Ling Jian watched Ling Tian gritted his teeth and gave orders. Today he brought all the elites of the Crying Blood Tower. 50 powerhouses above the 5th stage of Xingxuan. 2 vice hosts of Yuexuan's 6th realm. In addition, he himself is the arrogant of the 7 Moon Profound realm. He still doesn't believe that Ling Tian can't be killed. The order falls, but all he responded was silence. And the next moment, he suddenly felt that he was swept across his body by dozens of bloodthirsty eyes. In an instant, the hairs behind him stood upside down. Ling Jian turned hard and looked at. What? Ling Jian screamed and took 3 steps back. In front of him, Yan Yi Yan who owns the cultivation base of the 6th Moon Profound realm on his right arm, slumped his hands, looking at him with blood-red eyes. And 50 elites of the Weeping Blood building above the Xingxuan 5 realms, their eyes locked on him. All the people looked surprisingly the same. They were all expressionless. Their eyes were blood-red. They looked at him dully, like marionettes. You guys. Ling Jian's throat rolled. A chill poured into his limbs from the soles of his feet. If he didn't expect it to be wrong. The elites of his Weeping Blood building have all become Ling Tian's puppets. Although he didn't know how Ling Tian did it until now. But he reacted quickly. One sword floods the sky. Ling Jian's eyes flashed with a ruthless tone of profound energy moving his whole body. Turn around to kill Ling Tian. Yijian Qingtian is his strongest mysterious skill. He doesn't know what monster Ling Tian is. He only knew that at this moment, he had to fight to the death to find a way out. Boom! The terrifying Yuexuan sword ray ignites like a flame. In an instant, the surrounding air was evacuated. Sword ray, as brilliant as a red lotus, dragged a long tail light in the void. Passing through the void of Wulan like a meteor. The temperature between heaven and earth rose suddenly, and the dancing peach petals actually ignited a flame. Ling Tian looked at the stunning sword. There is not the slightest fluctuation in the eyes. Just raising 2 fingers easily sandwiched the sharp sword that penetrated the void between the 2 fingers. Zheng. Ling Jian's hand holding the sword suddenly stopped in the void, his face changed wildly and roared. How can it be? You must know that even the pinnacle powerhouses of the 8th realm of the Moon Profound realm would not necessarily take over his sword. Nothing is impossible. Ling Tian shook his head, and then slowly spit out a word indifferently. Broken. The sound falls. Ling Jian's body seemed to shake suddenly. Ding ding ding. 3 steps back. He felt that something was broken in his own body. The pupils slowly lose focus. There are fragments of soul fragments in the depths of my eyes. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the main task 3 Rebellion. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the task reward 10,000 destiny. Ding. Congratulations to the host for taking Ling Jian's destiny value of 5,000 destiny. Ding. Congratulations to the host for using Broken Soul Song, harvesting 53 puppets, and Ascension 5% of Broken Soul Song proficiency. The main mission is complete. Ling Tian slowly spit out a spit of breath. There was a pleasant smile on his face. In fact, as early as when he stepped out of the Shen's military mansion, he had already noticed that someone was following him. But he didn't make any response. Since he wants to follow, let him follow. After that, he quietly waited in the Wangyu forest for the arrival of the elites of Ling Jian and the Weeping Blood building. He wanted to use the king-level cultivation base to suppress them in one fell swoop. But suddenly he thought that it would be a shame to kill the 50 powerhouses of the Star Profound Realm plus the 3 powerhouses of the Moon Profound Realm. Therefore, he took out the soul flute and played the soul-breaking song. As soon as the broken soul tune rang, Realm was lower than the powerhouse of the conferred King Realm. Hun and Po were all broken, and then they could only be reduced to his puppets. It deserves to be Broken Soul Song. Ling Tian secretly smacked his tongue. The trilogy he obtained. Broken Soul Song is the most powerful, the most weird requiem, and the soul robbery is the most evil. Because although the soul-stealing song can only be used by one person at a time, but it will plant a soul-stealing mark in the depths of its soul. As long as the user urges the soul-catching seal, he can unconsciously manipulate his soul. And there is no level of cultivation base restrictions. In theory, no matter what the cultivation base people can be planted, this is the most terrifying place. A main mission has now been completed, and got 15,000 destiny points. Next, let's take a look at what is worth buying in Wanji Mall. Ling Tian took a deep breath and whispered to herself. Ding. After loading the Wanji Mall, does the host want to enable the Wanji Mall? Ling Tian heard the words and nodded without hesitation. Turn on. The sound falls. Ding. Wanji Mall opened. At this time Ling Tian only felt his head shook, and a shopping mall panel glowing with bronze appeared before his eyes. The merchandise of the Wanji Mall is divided into several categories: cultivation technique, divine armament weapon, medicine mysterious pill, pet mount, and props. Looking at these categories, Ling Tian took the lead in opening the column of cultivation technique skills. To be honest, now he doesn't have any cultivation technique skills to use except for the contemplating trilogy. So the top priority now is to choose 1 to 2 courses suitable for own martial skill cultivation technique. When he carefully looked at the dazzling array of cultivation technique skills, his heartbeat accelerated. Mantis Fist, 50 destiny. Kashankwan, 300 destiny. 9 Clouds, 500 destiny. Star God Broken Shadow, 5,000 fate. Extreme Dragon Skill, 5,000 mandate. Buddha's Fury Lotus, 10,000 destiny. Phoenix Burning World Code, 50,000 destiny value. Heaven Defying 7 Magic Knife, 100,000 destiny. 9 Secrets Fighting Word Secret, 100,000 destiny. Wanhua Shenghui, 100,000 destiny. Self Extreme Power, 100,000 destiny. 6 Paths of Reincarnation, 100,000 destiny. Heavenly Emperor Punch, priceless, available through quests and lotteries. Idol Shaking Power, priceless, available through the quest lottery. Dafa in Other Ways, priceless, available through task lottery. / Heavenly Tao, priceless, available through the task lottery. Ling Tian looked at the various cultivation techniques in the system mall. The prices of these cultivation technique skills range from low to high to priceless. Obviously, the higher the mandate value, the stronger the cultivation technique skill. The priceless cultivation technique is at the top level, each of which represents an immortal legend. However, although he is greedy, he is shy in his pocket, so he must consider reality. In the end, he fixed his gaze on the Star God Broken Shadow and Ji Bolong art. The Star God Broken Shadow is a footwork. Once it is performed, the star shadow is heavy, and within a single thought, it is close to the horizon, and it can reach the state of invisibility when practicing to the extreme. And Ji Yi Bo Long Shu is a close hand-to-hand combat method. Ling Tian considers that he has a body of evil spirits against the world, so he has a super physique. Therefore, if you cultivate a method of close hand-to-hand combat, it will have a very large ascension to your current combat power. Only these two. Ling Tian did not get entangled and directly spent 10,000 fate to lock down the star god Broken Shadow and Jibo Long Art. 5,000 destiny points left. Ling Tian decided to go shopping first and then decide what to buy. Divine Armament Tool in the mall. Cloak of the Dark Knight, 1,000 fate. Yellow Spring Sword, 1,000 destiny. Ghost Abyss Sword, 1,000 fate. Northern Emperor Zuxi Bow, 5,000 mandate. Luna's Light, 5,000 destiny. Oracle Knife, 5,000 mandate. Magic Sword Apophis, 5,000 mandate. Golden Flash Holy Sword, 5,000 destiny. Hidden Weapons. Buddha Fury Tanglian, 10,000 destiny, limited 1 piece. Dash. Sword of the Holy Path. Xuanyuan Sword priceless to obtain through lottery or mission. Killing Gods. Zhu Xian Sword priceless to be obtained through lottery or missions. Zhu Yang. Descendant Bow, it is priceless and can be obtained through a lottery task. Da Luo Sword Embryo priceless to obtain tasks through lottery. Look at these divine armament. Ling Tian was silent for a while, now he already has the dementing flute. Weapon requirements can be placed temporarily. But he still bought the Cloak of the Dark Knight. Because the Cloak of the Dark Knight has the function of the Hidden Breath cultivation base. This is still more important to him. Look at the medicine pill category. Hua Tuo's Secret Medicine. 500 destiny value, cure internal injuries in a short time. A Drop of Water of Life. 500 destiny value, can cure hundreds of poisons, restore profound energy and mental energy in a short time. Ling Tian glanced at most of them are healing recovery medicine pill. If you are injured in the future, you may be able to come here for consumption. And the last God Pet Mall. 5 Elements Saint Qilin. 88,888 mandate. Primordial Blue Dragon. 88,888 destiny. Violent Zuyan Ape. 88,888 fate. 9-color Swallowing Python. 88,888 destiny. Cough. Ling Tian's gaze stopped for a while at the 9-color Swallowing Python. As if thinking of something, the old face blushed and looked away with difficulty. Dash. Clicking on the last mysterious item column really surprised Ling Tian. This is really comprehensive. From food and daily life to travel props to the house to live in, and even fire, everything is available. Dragon's Blood. 1,000 destiny value, can enhance the strength of profound veins. The Eye of the Underworld. 1,000 destiny, can enhance profound strength cultivation base. Zon Niu Flesh. 1,000 life points, can enhance physical strength. Evil Heart Against the World Tao Body Unblocking Manual. 30,000 destiny value. Primordial Profound Arc. 50,000 destiny. Haoyu Immortal Palace. 100,000 fate value. 9 Dragons Pulling Coffin. Priceless. The Third Bronze Coffin. Priceless. God's Relic. Priceless. When Ling Tian saw the names of the last 3 objects, the pupils can't help but shrink. Finally, I could not help but breathe a sigh of relief when I saw the word priceless. This kind of unknown thing really cannot be priced. However, since it appears in the system mall, it means that you have a chance to get it. Thinking of this, Ling Tian couldn't help but his heart was pounding. After strolling around, he originally wanted to buy some dragon meat and fish eyes to temper his body and cultivation base. But when he saw the manual for unblocking the seal of the 7 world-defying realms, he gave up his thoughts. He is worried about how to unblock his own 7 worldly adversities. As a result, an unblocking manual was lying quietly in the system mall. This is simply great luck. So he put the 4,000 destiny value back into his pocket without hesitation. Now, he has to save money. Call. Ling Tian slowly took a breath of fresh air. His gaze scanned Ling Jian standing quietly beside him, and the 52 Weeping Bloodhouse elites wearing evil ghost masks couldn't help but smile. Today, he has taken control of the number 1 underground force in Wudu, and he is considered to initially possess a force belonging to his own. However, Ling Jian and Cry Blood Tower are swords in the hands of Jun Xiaoyao. If the sword is let go, then Jun Xiaoyao will naturally notice that something is wrong. So now he needs to make adequate preparations for the upcoming storm. 1. Practice the 2 cultivation techniques you purchased to the ultimate goal. 2nd, he needs to get more destiny points to purchase manual for unblocking 7 worlds of adversity. Thinking of this, he nodded. Time does not wait for me. Turning around, leading Ling An and the elite of the Weeping Blood building, disappeared in the Wangyu forest. Chapter 11. After Ling An left, a breeze blew. A slender and enchanting shadow quietly fell under the moonlight. The cold and beautiful moonlight is not as good as her grace. At this moment, she held her hand, her beautiful eyes stared blankly at Ling An's departure and squinted slightly. This little guy actually knows how to contemplate the trilogy soul-breaking. And it's Devil Dao profound strength that is cultivating. After all, a surprised smile appeared on the cold and glamorous Wushwang pretty face. The Conspiracy Trilogy is also known as the Abyss Trilogy. She hadn't even heard or seen it in person. Because the Dementor Trilogy was earlier than the Evil Moon era that she ruled, and it only exists in legends. It is impossible to verify which epoch went up specifically, and there is even no detailed record in the ancient history of 9 heavens. So, he was pretending before, right? Really not bad. This little guy really gave the Emperor a big surprise. The cold and beautiful and noble Lu Mei whispered to himself. At first, she was fond of Ling Tian's infatuation with Yi Qingluo and the power of Shen's military mansion. But now, she started to have interest in Ling Tian. No who can hide her from her at first sight. There is only one person so far, and that is the one who killed her Mu Wechen. And Ling Tian is the second person. Wudu Imperial City, in the Moon Temple. This is the palace dedicated to Jun Weiyang, the princess of martial god. At this moment, a large crystal mirror stands in the Great Hall. The figure of a woman like a fairy dream was reflected in the mirror. She sits quietly in front of the realm, with a face that doesn't show up in pink, but she seems to have poured all the hard work of the heavens into it. And her skin perfectly interprets what is icy muscles and bones, she has vermilion lips, and her facial features are exquisite and exquisite. However, this fairy face is full of coldness, and there is a kind of holiness that people don't dare to look directly at it. It's like a fairy standing on top of 9 heavens, without a trace of human fireworks. Next to her stood a girl in a moon skirt, Yu Mei, who was quietly dressing her up. Looking at the extremely dreamy and unreal fairy face in the mirror, she couldn't help but be fascinated. In a low voice, startled and muttered to himself, "Your Highness is so beautiful, even if the 9 heavens profound girl descends to the earth, it's nothing more than that." And just as Yue Mei lost her mind, a misty and cold voice slowly sounded. "Ling Tian is not dead." Yu Mei heard this, she hurried back to her senses and responded in a low voice. "His Majesty, there is news from your Majesty that Ling Tian has returned to the Shen's military mansion safely." Jun Weiyang frowned slowly and said, "Ling An didn't kill him. How can this be? Did Tianyi army mansion help?" After all, she shook her head and said to herself, "Wrong, Tianyi Junfu Yeyeyuan is not in Wudu City. Yi Qingluo is even more unlikely to help. So it should not be Tianyi Junfu. Where is the problem?" Yu Mei looked at Jun Weiyang like this, she lowered her head and reminded timidly. "His Majesty, your Majesty seems very angry because of this." Jun Nishang sighed and said, "After so long, he failed, and he should be angry." After that, a cold light flashed through her cold eyes, and her voice suddenly turned cold. "But then, I can't follow his method anymore." His Royal Highness, what do you mean?" A touch of surprise flashed in Yu Mei's eyes. She rarely sees such a serious look of Her Royal Highness. "Find Ling An, you want to see people in life, and corpses in death. Secretly contact the 3 killer organizations of Shen Zan Yu, 300,000 purple Zan Jing is offering a reward for Ling Tian heads." Listening to the sound of killing intent, Yu Mei nodded quickly with a cold body. The slave and maid takes orders. After returning to the Shen's military mansion, Ling Tian stood in the own courtyard, looking at the brightening sky, and then whispered, "Jun Xiaoyao's sword was taken by me. Next, his methods will probably not be as gentle as before." After all, Ling Tian thought about it seriously. Thinking in another way, what would he do if he wanted to kill a person without knowing it? Obviously the most efficient way is to find a killer. Ling An was Jun Xiaoyao's killer before. Ling An is gone now. Jun Xiaoyao can only find a third-party force that has nothing to do with him. Thought of here. Ling Tian's eyes suddenly condensed and said. Shen Xuanyu 3 killer organizations. There are 3 most terrifying assassin organizations on the profound continent, the nets, the underworld, and the human world. These 3 assassin organizations are the most terrifying forces on the profound God continent, and they are known as the Imperial 3 clan. The nets of heaven and earth, are pervasive. All the empires of the entire continent have their killers. They are a group of people who are well known for their high efficiency. In the underworld, Shenshuan's oldest assassin organization, there are many legendary assassins, Black and White Impermanence, Judge, Zhang Kui, Granny Meng, and so on. In the human world, this organization is hidden in the world as its name suggests, and it is impossible to defend against. Many members of this organization are also on the list of Tianji Pavilion killers, and their background is slightly behind the net and the underworld. If it's these 3 killer organizations coming, that's a little troublesome. Ling Tian was silent for a moment. Then the brows gradually opened. There is always a solution to a problem. The most important thing now is the cultivation of Star God Broken Shadow and Extreme Fighting Dragon technique. If these 2 cultivation techniques are cultivated to great success, it doesn't matter whether the killer is not the killer. Because the one who should worry about then is not yourself, but those killers. Thinking of this, he took out 2 light balls from the ring and crushed them fiercely. Zheng, 2 groups of hot and bright divine light entered Ling Tian's mind together. Start cultivation. 3 days passed in a hurry. In these 3 days, Ling Tian didn't waste a minute and was always cultivating the movement technique of the Star God Broken Shadow. Ding! Congratulations to the host, your skill Star God Shattered Shadow proficiency reached 5%. Ding! Congratulations to the host, your skill Star God Shattered Shadow proficiency reached 25%. Ding! Congratulations to the host, your skill Star God Shattered Shadow proficiency reached 50%. Ding! Congratulations to the host, your skill Star God Shattered Shadow proficiency reached 100%. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully comprehending the Star God Broken Shadow Invisible Realm. Listen to the sound of the system in the ear. Ling Tian was stunned for a moment. He really didn't expect that the speed of his cultivation would be so fast. A God-level movement technique was successfully cultivated by him in just 3 days. And this success is not a great achievement, but a complete comprehension. Call up the system task panel. Host, Ling Tian. Cultivation base, a realm of sealing the king. Physique, evil heart against the world. Fetters, demon heart chaos body. Comprehension, 50. Ascension can be increased with the enhancement of physique. Weapon, Dementor. Ability, 7 world-defying realms open 0/7. Cultivation technique, a trilogy of contemplating souls, Star God Broken Shadows, and Extreme Bolong technique. Skill, Eye of Insight. Mandate reserve, 4000 mandate. Puppets, 53 people. List expandable. The Wanji Mall has been opened, and the mission system has been opened. Ling Tian looked at this exclusive system panel. The doubts in my heart were solved instantly. In the game settings of Shen Devil, perception 50 is the limit of mankind. If it goes up further, it belongs to the category of God. So Ling Tian, who has reached the limit of human perception at this moment. It was not surprising that it took only 3 days to cultivate the Star God to the extreme state. Moreover, Ling Tian has noticed that own savvy seems to be linked to the evil spirit and world-defying Tao body he possesses. It means that as long as you can unblock the seal of your constitution, your comprehension can continue to improve your comprehension to reach the God level. The evil heart is against the world and the body, and will always drop the gods. Ling Tian exclaimed. Take a short break. He started to cultivate the second martial Tao skill non-stop. G Fighting Dragon technique has 9 layers realm. And the requirements for the cultivator's physique are very high. If there are no accidents, the general practitioners can only stay in the realm of the first level extreme body refining. But Ling Tian is different. With an evil spirit and a body against the world, he has the strongest physique in the world, coupled with his super savvy. Adding the 2 together, there is no doubt that the speed at which he practiced Ji Bo Long Shu can reach an inhuman level. Start cultivation. As he expected, in 1 hour, he successfully broke through extremely refining body realm. In 3 hours, he reached the 4th level, extremely refining the heart realm. 8 hours later, he successfully stepped into the 9th floor G Fighting Dragon realm. After reaching G Fighting Dragon realm, Ling Tian's temperament has changed. In the past, he looked like a handsome and innocent son of a family. But now he exudes an extremely terrifying fighting spirit. A pair of extremely clear eyes flashed with a peerless edge that could tear apart the cold and waking night. Even the voice of Ji Yulong's wailing appeared between the heaven and the earth that he was referring to. Call. Ling Tian slowly spit out a turbid breath. Sharp light blooms in the eyes. The completion of the cultivation of Star God Broken Shadow and Ji Bolong's skill greatly increased his confidence. But now he urgently needs to find an opponent to verify his strength. Ling Jian. Ling Tian shouted in a deep voice. Then a black shadow broke through the air. It was Ling Jian. Owner. Ling Jian knelt in front of Ling Tian, his voice with piety as if he would worship the own god again. Since his soul was broken by Ling Tian, his autonomous consciousness no longer exists. Now his soul is pieced together by broken soul music. So he was only driven by Ling Tian's consciousness. In other words, the whole person is completely the most loyal servant born for Ling Tian. Do your best. Fight me. Ling Tian slowly gave the order. Yes. Ling Jian heard the words. He did not hesitate to draw the sword directly towards Ling Tian. Zheng. The dazzling sword light and the terrifying sword power pierced the setting sun. I came to Ling Tian's eyes in an instant. At this moment, Ling Jian unexpectedly exploded with the power of the peak of the 8th realm of Yuexuan. You know, before he was crushed by Ling Tian, the cultivation base had only the 7 realms of Moon Profound. But Ling Tian is not surprised. Because he knew this was the power of Broken Soul Song. Ling Jian's soul was broken and then reshaped, his life completely attached to himself. It is precisely because of this that his cultivation base will also be enhanced because of his own strength cultivation base. Although in the past few days, Ling Tian has not deliberately enhanced the cultivation base. But cultivation base has been diligently making progress, reaching the pinnacle of the king in just a few days. So Ling Jian's cultivation base also got a flyover these days. Good job. Ling Tian looked at the sharp sword that had reached the front. His body shook, and his feet stepped on the broken shadow of the star god, and the star shadow behind him was plentiful. Zheng, 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 zheng. Ling Jian stabbed hundreds of swords in a row. But froze as that no sword can touch Ling Tian's close corner. On the contrary, there are countless star shadows in the void that have been smashed by him. We must know that at this moment Ling Tian deliberately suppressed the cultivation base to the Moon Profound realm to fight Ling Jian. This is scary. As expected of the star god Broken Shadow, it can be called the world's fastest. Ling Tian smiled slightly and said to himself, from the bottom of my heart, I have a general understanding of the extent of the star god Broken Shadow. Drink. Ling Jian roared. He displayed his secret technique at the bottom of the press box with a sword. At this moment, the entire void seems to be ignited. The fierce sword ray danced in Ling Tian's courtyard. At this moment, an ancient dragon's wailing sound sounded. In that bright glow, a fist burst into the air with burning flames. With an extremely violent aura, the sky and the earth were darkened in an instant. Sword ray and blazing light were instantly suppressed. Tear. A cracking voice sounded. In the bright light, a Taoist shadow flew out and hit the ground fiercely. He is Ling Jian. Ling Jian slowly got up, was afraid of patted the dust on his body, and then he carried the sword and continued to walk towards Ling Tian. It seems that if realm is suppressed in the Moon Profound realm, the power limit of the extreme dragon fighting technique is below the conferred king realm. Ling Tian looked at Ling Jian, who had not received any injuries, and nodded slightly. Afterwards, a thought came to his mind after a look. Shendao Profound Strength is the main balance. Devil Dao's Profound Strength Master is violent. What would happen if Devil Dao's Profound Strength was used to urge Ji Dragon fighting technique? After all, Ling Tian's eyes lit up, he shook his hand, and then slowly clenched his fist. Zheng. A dark night light passed through his eyes. Boom. A vast force of Devil Dao exploded in his body. At this moment, Ling Tian is half of the terrifying magic power erupting like a demon master of the world. A pair of clear eyes bloom with scarlet light. Black smoke wafted out of his eyes repeatedly. At this moment, he could clearly perceive that his own profound strength attribute had completely transformed into a violent The ultimate fury. Camera shift. Drink. Ling An cried down towards Ling Tian with a cold shout. His sword fell like a meteor from the sky, dragging out a long tail light. Upon seeing this, Ling Tian frowned slightly, then disappeared directly in place. Behind him, there are thousands of black stars blooming in an instant. Punch out. One long wailing appeared in the world. The terrifying coercion fell like the night collapsed. Click. The sword in Ling Jian's hand broke instantly. The whole person is embedded in the surface like a meteorite falling into the air. Cobweb-like cracks appeared in the courtyard. Piles of black smoke floated from the cracks. Cough, cough, cough. Ling Jian lay under the collapsed ground. The clothes were shattered, a few black blood coughed out, and there was no more power to fight. This power is strong enough. Ling Tian nodded, the dim light flickered in his eyes. He already knew that using Devil Dao's profound strength to use the Ji Bolong technique can maximize its power. After that, he walked closer and stretched out his hand to pull Ling Jian up. And something strange happened. The wound on Ling Jian's body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the pale face that entered the paper just now has gradually become ruddy. This is also the power of Broken Soul Song. Ling Tian was a little surprised. This recovery speed is too exaggerated. Even he didn't expect it. Now, even if Ling Jian's soul is broken, his body has been completely built into a pure fighter machine by the Broken Soul Song. Cultivation is over. Then we have to find a way to earn more destiny back. Ling Tian whispered. After all, the system prompt sounded in his ear. Ding. The system prompts that there is an update reminder in the task panel. Ding. Task panel update reminder. Hearing the sound of the system prompt in the ear, Ling Tian instantly came to the spirit. There were 3 main tasks in his task panel before. Among them, he has completed the task of Fate Rebellion. There are 2 main missions left. But fetters he has no clue for the time being, because he doesn't know how to take the first step. The Kingslayer is underway, but I can't rush it. If you take a wrong step, it will be overwhelming. And Lang Han hasn't done it yet. Then he is naturally not in a hurry. Slaying King, if this task is temporarily impossible by himself, it is impossible to complete. After all, in Wudu City, the strong are like clouds. Even if he stepped into the Feng Wang realm, he couldn't shake the royal family at all. There is no threat to Zhen Xiaoyao. Therefore, accumulating strength at this stage is the kingly way. At this time, how to unlock the seals of the 7 world-destroying realms is particularly critical. Only by unblocking these 7 stages with world-defying power, can I truly have the confidence to fight against Zhen Xiaoyao. Nodded, Ling Tian hurriedly opened the system panel, and really found a new system task. Sign into the Arena of Gods, reward 5,000 destiny. It turned out to be a sign-in task. And the reward is the destiny value that I lack the most. Ling Tian was a little surprised. The sign-in task is the simplest among all task types. Because you don't need to do anything, you just have to go and punch a card easily. Ling Tian touched her chin. I thought about it a little. Although it is a simple sign-in task. But the sign-in place is indeed a bit special. God Arena does not belong to the royal family of the martial god kingdom. It does not belong to any power in the profound god continent. It belongs to the terrifying force Shen Dao Tiangong that rules over 100,000 star realms above 9 heavens. In the storyline development setting of God and Demon, God Arena is an arena of life and death created by Shinto Temple. The end of the Evil Moon Era, after the cold and cold fall of the Empress Devil Dao. Empress Rin Moon, Mu Wechen came to power. Respected by the gods as the first emperor of the ages. A new era began, the era of the moon. And Mu Wechen's first command after ascending to the throne. It is the order, Shinto Temple, to build the arena of the gods in 100,000 star realms. For thousands of years, the battlefield of the gods not only stands in every star realm. Even standing in every empire in the 100,000 star realms. Mu Wechen set the rules. Put all the captured Devil Dao cultivators into the Horn of God. Cultivators can fight to the death against the imprisoned demons in the God Arena or freely fight against ordinary cultivators. The winner can get points, and the points can be exchanged for training resources in the Shinto Temple. Moreover, she also ordered the Tianji pavilions distributed in various star realms to establish a God of War list for them. If you have accumulated a certain amount of points, you can unlock the achievement to enter the God of War list and become famous in the world. The higher the achievement value, the higher the ranking in the God of War list. This rule is set. The hundreds of millions of cultivators in the hundreds of thousands of stars are crazy for them. After all, in this fantasy world, who doesn't want high-level spiritual resources and a reputation spread throughout the world? Life is nothing more than fame and fortune. Really a scheming and cruel woman. Ling An whispered to herself. After the cold fall, the Devil Dao camp has since retreated to the Devil's domain. And she specially established such a arena system. Used the cultivator's longing for fame and fortune. Brought the Devil Dao cultivator in the 100,000 star realm into the abyss. For thousands of years, the powerhouse who repaired Devil Dao can only retreat to a dark place, and dare not expose the cultivation base at will. Otherwise, it is the fate of being hunted or locked up in the arena of the gods as a gladiator sooner or later. Devil Dao cultivator. Too miserable. Ling An helplessly spread his hands. Then he suddenly thought of something. His face couldn't help but stiff. And many more. He seems to be cultivating Devil Dao too. If this is exposed, there is no doubt that he will become in the same position as the heavenly demon Dao cultivator. But think about it, it doesn't seem to hurt. After all, he was in the same stratagem with Devil Dao, the biggest boss of the last era. Who cares about this danger? Ling An stretched out her hand and rubbed her eyebrows. I calmed down a bit and asked, Ling An, when will God's arena open? When Ling An heard this, he replied in a wooden manner. It opens every morning. It ends at midnight. Open for 6 hours a day. Hearing that, Ling An nodded. He pondered for a moment and took out a piece of jade from the ring. This piece of jade is called the Oracle Stone. The Oracle Stone is a pass to enter the arena of the gods. It also records own name and points. Name, Ling An. Region, June Martial God Country. Points, 0. God of War ranking, not yet on the list. As predicted, not surprisingly, Ling An has no points. This also means that he has never played. And look at Ling An's Oracle Stone. Name, Ling An. Region, June Martial God Country. Points, 897. Regional ranking on God of War list, 287. Good guy. Even Ling An has 897 points. And the ranking reached 287. Ling An froze for a while and was speechless. I was really a silly white sweet who only had a love brain. Shook his head. Ling An took out the previously purchased dark night cloak from the ring and put it on her body. Then he said to Ling An, go, let's go to the arena of gods. Preliminary realm. Haotian physical body. Shantian enters the mystery. Xingshuan 7 realms. Yuexuan realm 8th realm. Entrusted king 9 realms. Holy realm. Zhengshuan. Tianshuan supreme. Shenshuan enshrined god. Today's horn of god is as crowded as usual. Ling An took Ling An and walked into the viewing pavilion dedicated to Shen's military mansion in a low-key manner. Not only is it private enough, but it also has an excellent view to see the battles that take place on the Kodoku field. Man of few words, Ling An opened his mouth crisply and neatly. System sign in. The moment the voice fell, a clear system prompt fell into my mind. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the sign-in task and get the sign-in reward of 5,000 mandates. Hearing this, the corner of Ling An's mouth raised a pleasant arc. This fate is too fragrant. However, the bonus of 5,000 life points plus the 4,000 life points stored in his own small vault is no more than 10,000. This is a long way from the goal of 30,000 mandate points. So there are more than 20,000 mandate points left. How can I earn it? Ling An touched his chin and thought about it seriously. Now there are 2 ways to gain mandate by yourself. The first is to obtain destiny value through system task rewards. The second is to rob others of the destiny value. And the system task reward, it depends on the timing. If the system hasn't released the task, I can only stare at me. For example, now. So now I can only rely on the second method. A cold light flashed through Ling An's eyes. And just as his thoughts flew, there was a deafening noise from the arena. Looking along the voice, I saw one wearing a slightly obsolete black military uniform. The stunning woman with a high ponytail and a black blade in hand walked onto the arena. At the moment when he saw the woman, a name popped out of Ling Tian's mind. Ji Xian. If Ling Tian remembers correctly, Ji Xian is a very special existence in the kingdom of martial god. Her mother is the eldest princess of Kangjian Villa. But his father was an unknown demon cultivator who practiced devil Dao. In other words, Ji Xian is a god-demon hybrid between a god cultivator and a demon cultivator. We must know that in this era of Shinto rule, demon cultivator is the enemy of the whole people. Anyone who has something to do with demon cultivator will not end well. Ji Xian's mother abolished the whole cultivation base because of her combination with demon cultivator. And he was imprisoned in the Kangjian Villa for his entire life and couldn't take a step out of the villa. Ji Xian, who had the blood of demon cultivator, was kicked out of the Tibetan sword villa since childhood and was thrown into the foster care of the martial emperor's family academy. What's even more exaggerated is that the big guys demanded that she had to fight demon cultivator in the arena of gods from the age of 9. It is really hard for Ling Tian to imagine the scene of a 9-year-old girl carrying a sword from a young age on the arena for a life and death battle. And June martial god's general attitude towards her is, if she wins, congratulations, she can continue to live. If you lose, then it's very good. There is no girl full of sinful blood in the world. Ji Xian, a girl who has the blood of god cultivator and demon cultivator, but is not accepted by Shinto and devil Dao. This is properly set by the heroine. In Ling Tian's eyes narrowed slightly, whispered to himself in a low voice. In the God and Devil fantasy game, there is a setting of the Girl of Destiny, and every Girl of Destiny will have a great mission and have its own unique plot line. If Ji Xian is really the daughter of Destiny, then he must pay attention to it. When Ling Tian's thoughts turn, the battle on the arena has already begun. A demon cultivator who was as tall as a mountain giant was hitting Ji Xian with a hammer in his hand. And Ji Xian holds a black moonblade, carved by a piece of ice and snow, and there is no change in the stunning face that is difficult to paint. As usual, she gently held the hilt with her jade hand. Draw the sword. Zheng. I saw a blazing cold moonlight sweeping out. The temperature of the world suddenly dropped by 10 degrees, and the surrounding air was emptied instantly. Puff. Sword ray cut demon cultivator's body into two without hindrance. Scarlet blood shot out like a fountain. Maybe it's because the sword speed is too fast. This resulted in demon cultivator's lower body still running. And the upper body has fallen to the ground. Just a sword. A demon cultivator who held the moon realm was cut off and fell. At this moment, the arena was silent for 3 seconds. Then broke out extremely warm applause and cheers. Although the leaders of the martial god country and the great figures of Shenzong are very disliked and disgusted with the demon cultivator bloodline on Ji Xian's body. But ordinary people and rogue cultivators still recognize her strength. Many people even gave Ji Xian the nickname Devil Dao Sword Fairy. This is the strength of Devil Dao Sword Princess. This is too powerful. Cut. Rare and strange, this is her basic operation. Oh, you said she would be great if she didn't have the blood of Devil Dao. Yes, if she doesn't have the blood of Devil Dao, then the future must be very bright. Perhaps it can be comparable to the goddess and goddess of the martial god kingdom who practice Shenzong. Taishi. Just when the arena is boiling because of Ji Xian. A voice with deep disdain sounded. Just this woman with blood and sin is worthy of comparison with my goddess of the Phoenix sect. You guys are probably blind. After the words fell, a young man wearing a phoenix robe followed out from the viewing pavilion of the Flame Army Mansion and looked around the entire arena of the gods. See this man. The cultivators who had wanted to refute suddenly swallowed what they were saying. Everyone recognized that this person is from the Phoenix Shenzong. Moreover, he is not an ordinary disciple. The red gold god pattern on his god robe is the sign of the disciple of the Phoenix Shenzong. One of the 3 personal disciples of Phoenix Shenzong. Who dares to provoke this identity? Ha, Brother Fengming, don't be angry, these ignorant rogue cultivators know a fart. At this time, the speaker was Li Ziyang, the young master of the Flame Army Mansion. Snort. Fengming snorted coldly, too. Then his sword eyebrows were slightly slanted, and his eyes looked at the gloomy opening of the war-watching pavilion of the 10,000 Swords military mansion. Aren't the friends from Hidden Sword Villa show up yet? The voice falls. The gate of the battle viewing pavilion of the Wanjian Army Palace opened. 3 figures walked out. The young master of the Wanjian army mansion, Xiao Ce. The second personal disciple of Hidden Sword Villa, Ji Yu Yan. Ji Yu Langson, the third disciple of Hidden Sword Villa. Upon seeing this, everyone in the arena of gods was stunned. I thought, what day is today? How come the personal disciples of Phoenix Shenzong and Tibetan Sword Villa have arrived together? Only when Ling Tian was watching these two disciples who practiced Shenzong. It's not fear but joking in the eyes. He used the eye of insight to know that Feng Ming from Phoenix Shenzong has 10,000 destiny potential. Ji Yu Yan, the third personal disciple of the Hidden Sword Villa, also has the potential of 10,000 destiny. And that fourth personal disciple, Ji Yu Langson, has the potential of 8,000 destiny. That's amazing. Ling Tian wondered if he had brought them all in one pot, wouldn't it be beautiful? Now in Ling Tian's eyes, these people are not personal disciples who practice Shenzong, but are gold mines of destiny. And just as Ling Tian continued to use the eye of insight to check Ji Yu Xian, the smile on his face suddenly froze. My heart is shaking. This woman has 200,000 destiny potential. Name, Ji Yu Xian. Age, 19. Physique, Ice Mysterious Demon Bone Preliminary Awakening. Fetter Physique, None. Cultivation Base, Moon Profound Peak. The Limit of Fighting Power, A Realm of Sealing the King. Destiny Potential, 200,000. Wish, I desperately desire power. I hope to save little sister Ji Yu Shui, and then kill the Hidden Sword Villa to bring my mother back to live in seclusion. Expand more. Ling Tian carefully checked Ji Yu Xian's information and nodded slightly to herself. It turns out that she has an ice profound demon bone. Then it's not surprising that she has the potential of 200,000 destiny points. In the God and Demon setting, the Bingshuan Devil Bone is a veritable supreme bone. As long as you have the supreme bone, you will wait until the supreme bone awakening is completed in the future. Her cultivation base can at least step into the ultimate realm of the profound sky supreme realm, no matter how bad it is. It is also because of the superb spiritual potential endowed by the supreme bone. Every cultivator in the world yearns for a supreme bone. After all, this is a real practice plug-in. Just ask, who doesn't want it? But for Ling Tian, he disdains Ji Yu Xian's supreme bones. After all, the supreme bone is good, but it can only be regarded as a tasteless compared to his evil spirit. All he wants is the 200,000 destiny value to be excavated. This woman is simply a super gold mine to be developed. But then again, and what Ling Tian didn't expect was, Ji Yu Xian actually has an unknown little sister. Little sister of the super gold mine, there must be a lot of potential. Thinking of this, Ling Tian smiled. He has included Ji Yu Xian and her unknown little sister on his own watch list. And at this moment, the situation in the arena of gods has changed. Hidden Sword Villa. Ji Yu Yan said coldly to Ji Yu Xian. Sister Xian, the villa has an order. Order is to bring you back to the Hidden Sword Villa. Ling Tian frowned upon hearing this. Is the villa fate? Bring it back to the Tibetan Sword Villa. No matter how he heard these two sentences, he felt a bit tricky. A man who was kicked out of the Hidden Sword Villa since he was a child. Now I suddenly want to recall it, obviously something is wrong. Thought of this, Ling Tian once again looked at Ji Yu Yan with the eyes of insight. Name, Ji Yu Yan. Age, 25. Cultivation base, 4 realms of sealing kings. Limits of combat power, 5 realms of sealing kings. Physique, none. Talent, a rare encounter in a century. Destiny potential, 10,000. Wish, I hope to marry her childhood sweetheart Ji Yu Langson. Task, take Ji Yu Xian back to the Tibetan Sword Villa by the order of the wife of the owner of Tibetan Sword Villa. If not, cultivation base can be abolished directly, but the supreme bone must be intact. Expandable, sure enough there is a problem. Ling Tian's complexion is strange. But should you tell me why this plot has such a familiar rush? If you guessed right, wait until Ji Yu Xian is captured back to the Tibetan Sword Villa. The next plot will not be the wife of the owner of the Hidden Sword Villa, holding a boning knife in her hand to stage a drama of digging the supreme bones of her own son, Devil Dao's niece, and the mother's kindness and filial piety. If this is the case, then she is really set by the heroine. Ling Tian whispered while holding his arm. No. Absolutely not. A faint light flashed in Ling Tian's eyes. Ji Yuxian is own super gold mine, she has 200,000 destiny points to be excavated. If this was taken away by the people of Hidden Sword Villa and dug out the supreme bone, would it be worth it? Ding. The system detects the host's mood swings and triggers the hidden task of the system. Ding. Congratulations to the host for triggering a hidden mission to save the goddess Ji Yuxian. Ding. Please choose whether to accept or not to accept the host. Upon hearing this, Ling Tian was taken aback. Xindao. This is also okay. He quickly opened the task panel and found the newly released hidden task in the system. Hidden mission. Rebellious Xian. Task description. Please modify the plotline of Ji Yuxian being captured back to Hidden Sword Villa and being excavated from the Supreme Bone. Task reward. Heaven-defying 7 magic knife plus 40,000 destiny. Mission punishment. If Ji Yuxian returns to the Hidden Sword Villa and is excavated from the Supreme Bone, the host will be demoted to the Xingxuan realm. Ling Tian looked at this task, there was a shimmering light in his eyes. Sure enough, Ji Yuxian is one of the gods and destined daughters in the world. But yes, he has an extremely pitiful life experience and an enviable supreme bone. Next, Aunt Owen will calculate the bone. This fate is too tragic. But I have to admit that this is indeed a proper heroine template setting. Interesting. Ling Tian smiled slightly and then spoke. Except, this task is certainly difficult. After all, if you save Ji Yuxian, you will have to make enemies with some of the great figures in Kangjian Villa. This is no small hindrance and trouble for him who has just started. And if the task fails, the own cultivation base will be lowered by a large realm. However, Ji Yuxian's 200,000 destiny value is too tempting. Plus the 40,000 destiny rewarded by the mission and the heaven-defying 7 magic knives worth 100,000 destiny. This makes Ling Tian unable to refuse. What about Hidden Sword Villa? Heaven-defying 7 magic knife, I want to fix it. Bah, Ji Yuxian, I'm in Baoding, it's useless for Jesus to come. The corner of Ling Tian's mouth raised a shallow smile. A pair of clear eyes flashed a touch of cold light. At the same time, a great plan suddenly appeared in his mind. The camera shifts to the arena of the gods. Ji Yuxian held the black moon blade, her beautiful eyes watched Ji Yuyan's group warily. She is not a fool, since she was a child, she knew how tempting the supreme bone she had was for the world. Long before she was driven out of the Hidden Sword Villa, her mother had warned her. Before her supreme bone is fully awakened, never return to the Hidden Sword Villa. But she didn't expect that her supreme bone had just begun to awaken. It's convenient to find it. How? Sister Ji Yu doesn't want to go home with senior brother. Ji Yuyan hugged his arm and opened his mouth playfully. I'm not your junior sister. Tibetan Sword Villa is not my home either. I won't go to Hidden Sword Villa with you. Ji Yuxian stared at Ji Yuyan indifferently, her red lips lightly opened and responded indifferently. Ha ha, Ji Yuyan couldn't help but sneered when he heard this. Junior sister Ji Yu, you can't be blamed for this matter. After that, he nodded to Ji Yu Lengson beside him. Secretly transmitted. Lan Xin abolished Ji Yuxian's cultivation base. Ji Yu Lengson nodded, and then she flew into the arena of the gods. At the same time, he took out the own god's domain stone from the ring and threw it into the circle in the center of the arena of gods. Ji Yuxian, come here to fight. Zheng, the center of the circle. A huge voice resounded throughout the arena of the gods. Ji Yuxian, Soldier 087, you have been challenged by Ji Yu Lengson, Soldier 090. God's Arena, the battle is on. This is the sound of the laws of the arena of gods. The sound fell, and a legal barrier was erected around the arena. Hearing this voice, the audience was in an uproar. The arena of gods does have rules of freedom to challenge. This rule is if a cultivator with a low ranking in the God of War list picks a person with a high ranking in the God of War list. Then the high-ranking person can't refuse. But if in turn, if the high-ranked people challenge the low-ranked people, then people with low rankings have the right to refuse. In theory, this is a mechanism to protect the weak. Because people who rank high in the general God of War list represent more wins, more points, and a strong cultivation base. But Ji Yuxian is a special existence. She has been in the arena for life and death since she was 9 years old. Such high points are piled up by the number of fields. She is the only one in the top 100 on the God of War list as the cultivation base of the Moon Profound Peak. How good would it be for you to return to the Tibetan Sword Villa with us quietly? In this way, you don't have to suffer the next pain. Ji Yulangsen held the Wulan sword in her hand with a beautiful face with extreme indifference. At the moment when her voice fell, there was a chill in Ji Yuxian's beautiful eyes. The black moon blade suddenly came out of its sheath. Zheng, a sword light that was several times stronger than just now swept up. When countless cultivators saw this, there was a touch of surprise in their eyes. What a scary sword intent. It's not just a cultivator. At this moment, even Ji Yulangsen couldn't help frowning. The power of this sword has obviously surpassed the peak of Yuexuan. As expected of a woman with supreme bones, there was a roar of jealousy in her heart. Then the Moonland sword came out. The terrifying power of the profound way suddenly erupted. The power of the king is coming. The coercion of terror is directly suppressed in everyone's heart. Oh, it's still invincible after all. Countless cultivators sigh. The coercion of this king realm was evident. They knew that Ji Yuxian was more fierce than auspicious. Don't look at the difference between Yuexuan Peak and the conferred king realm by only a small realm. In fact, the profound strength level of the conferred king realm was completely higher than that of the Yuexuan realm. Under the same realm, because the level of profound strength is the same, the leapfrog challenge is completely achievable. Even many Tianzhao and fighting geniuses can do it. But to cross a big realm to defeat the enemy, that is really only a rare peerless evildoer can do it. After all, how can you win if your profound strength is no longer at the same level? Just when countless people sighed. Zheng, 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 Zheng. The two have collided together. The flames in the arena of the gods are everywhere, and sword chi is in full swing. As everyone expected, Ji Yuxian at the Moon Profound Peak was beaten back by Ji Yulangsen, who was in the rank of the king, with no strength to fight back. Boom! The sound of a sonic boom of profound strength collision sounded. Ji Yuxian's figure flew upside down. The corners of the mouth were bleeding, and a beautiful face was pale. Her breath has become turbulent. The defeat is set. Snort. Ji Yulangsen coldly snorted and shouted. Ji Yuxian, it's over. After all, she slammed on the surface, turning her whole body into a stream of light to kill Ji Yuxian. With this sword, she was going to abolish Ji Yuxian's profound veins and cultivation base. And at this moment, Ling An, who was watching the battle, smiled frivolously on the brows. The victory is divided. The moment the voice fell, I saw an extremely dazzling white light ignited on the arena of the gods. This white light tore through the sky in an instant, and its power was shocking. What? A terrible scream sounded. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Then I saw a beautiful figure stunned out of the white light. The light gradually faded. Everyone saw that Ji Yulan fell to the ground in the arena and couldn't afford to spill the blood. In addition, she has one arm missing. What's the situation? Devil Dao Sword Fairy Ji Yuxian actually won. Yuexuan Pinnacle cut off an arm of a powerful man in the conferred king realm. Heaven defying. At this moment, the entire arena of gods is completely boiling. On the other hand, Ji Yuyan, the second disciple of Hidden Sword Villa, has blood red in the corners of his eyes. A shadow fell on him, but still can't cover up that extremely terrifying killing. Even the surrounding air became gloomy and cold. Now, even the young palace masters of the two military palaces and even Feng Ming of the Phoenix Shenzong fell silent. They all know that Ji Yulangsen is Ji Yuyan's sweetheart. Therefore, everyone has a hunch that Ji Yuxian, who cut off Ji Yulan's heart, is afraid that something will happen. Looking at the entire arena, there is only Ling Tian. While looking at Ji Yuyan on the edge of the explosion, there is a touch of playfulness in the eyes, as if he was looking at his own prey or toy. The battle is over on the arena of gods. The legal barrier erected all around suddenly disappeared. Ji Yuyan flashed away and came to the arena. Brother, well, it hurts. Ji Yulan's eyes were a little loose when Ji Yuyan held her in her arms. A beautiful face is full of pain. Lan Xin, you will be fine. Ji Yuyan suppressed the crazy killing intent in his heart and forced a smile and her voice trembled. Brother, for me, abandon that fool for me. Ji Yulan's face was full of gritted teeth and opened her mouth. Relax. I will let her bear your pain 10 times. The killing intent in Ji Yuyan's eyes was harsh to the extreme. His ranking in the God of War list is 80. So at the beginning, if he challenged Ji Yuxian, who was ranked lower than him, he would definitely be rejected. But it's different now. On the free battlefield, the victor will get half of the points of the loser. Ji Yuxian, who has now defeated Ji Yulengsan, has ascending to 78th. So if he challenges Ji Yuxian at this moment, then Ji Yuxian can only face his anger. After all, he settled it down with Ji Yulan's heart and returned to the arena of gods. At this moment, his eyes were red, like a bloodthirsty and violent beast, and he spoke in a very cold tone. Ji Yuxian, today I want you to endure 10 times the pain of Langsan. When I abolish your profound veins and take you back to the Hidden Sword Villa, you will know what the real Abbey the Underworld is. Ji Yuxian heard that she was holding the hilt of own moonblade tightly in her palms, her chest undulating violently. She could feel the terrifying sense of oppression on Ji Yuyan's body was definitely not something she could contend with. The reason why she was able to cut off Ji Yulengsan's arm with a single sword was that she used the power of her last trump card, Ice Profound Devil Bone. But now she can no longer use this taboo power in a short time. And even if she could use this power again, she didn't think she could defeat Ji Yuyan in front of her. The gap between her and Ji Yuyan is even bigger than she thought. Call. She slowly took a breath of cold air. What else can I do now? There is only one battle. Thinking of this, her pair of beautiful eyes gradually became firm and majestic. Red lips lightly opened and said in a cold voice, "If you want to fight, then fight." Ha ha. Ji Yuyan heard this, he smiled like a devil about to addicted to people. And just when he was about to throw the oracle stone into the battlefield, an extremely unexpected voice sounded. I, Ling An, challenge you Ji Yuyan. The moment the voice fell, a piece of oracle stone fell into the battlefield circle like a flying star. At the same time, a dark figure also stood in the arena. Warrior No. 080 Ji Yuyan, you have been challenged by Fighter No. 287 Ling An. God's arena opens, and the battle begins. The sound of the laws of the arena of the gods sounded. Just like the rules on the arena. The low-ranked people in God of War challenge the high-ranked people. So high-ranking people can't refuse. After the voice of the law fell, Ji Yuxian was directly discharged from the arena by a force of law. Then the wall of law appeared, shut Ling An and Ji Yuyan in the arena. A duel is about to begin. What is going on? Ji Yuxian looked at the strange figure on the arena and couldn't help standing still. She was already ready to fight to the death. But who would have thought that such a scene would happen? Ling An, people from Shen's military mansion. Ji Yuxian opened her red lips slightly, her expression a little confused. She didn't know why the people of Shen's military mansion would suddenly rescue her. Do you want to know that she and Ling An don't want to know each other? How could it be Ling An? This guy is usually unprofitable and can't afford to be early. The city mansion is extremely smiling. Why is he here? Xiao Ce from the Wanjian army palace widened his eyes and looked at his familiar figure in the field. Before today, even if he was killed, he would never believe that people like Ling An would dare to face the direct disciples of Hidden Sword Villa. Not only him, but also young palace master Li Ziyang of the Flame Army Mansion, squinted his eyes and looked at the arena of the gods. Familiar figure, familiar face, familiar sword. Confirm that Ling An is not wrong. But it shouldn't be. Li Ziyang's brow furrowed into a schwanzi. The palace lord of his father's Flame Army Mansion once told him that Ling An was a sword of Emperor Jun Xiaoyao. However, how could a sword belonging to the emperor point to Ji Yuyan? Could it be that this was instructed by His Majesty the Emperor? Thinking of this possibility, Li Ziyang's eyes appeared a touch of astonishment. If this is the case, then things are big. What's wrong? Who is this person? Feng Ming looked at the two young palace masters who looked a little wrong and couldn't help asking with some curiosity. Li Ziyang heard this and hesitated. Then he whispered a few words in Feng Ming's ear. At this time, a strange and horrified look appeared in Feng Ming's eyes. If it is like Li Ziyang said, then the things involved are big. It's not just them. Even the cultivators watching on God's fight are dumbfounded. Isn't this the sword master of the Shen's military mansion? Why is he here? This doesn't seem to be the style of young master sword. Yes, it's so weird. Does young master Ling Jian want a hero to save the United States? Ha ha. Ling Tian looked at the chaotic battlefield of the gods and couldn't help but chuckle. Xindao. The bait is on the court, the plan begins. The camera shifts back to the arena of gods. Ji Yuyan stared at Ling Jian with bloodthirsty eyes and then said sternly. People from Shen's military mansion. You are trying to die. You are not afraid. He hasn't finished speaking. I saw that Ling Jian's sword was out of its sheath. And as soon as he shot it, his secret technique hit the sky. Zheng. The air ignites like a flame. There was a hot and bright sword ray across the sky. The terrifying sword chi smashed down towards Ji Yuyan with an overwhelming aura. Facing such a terrifying attack, Ji Yuyan flashed a touch of disdain. No flash at all, no need, not even an attacking posture. He just raised his hand slightly, blasted out a punch without fancy, and directly cut off the sword force of Chang Qingtian. Then he had a chill in his eyes, and a palm of his backhand hit Ling Jian's chest fiercely. Puff! Ling Jian's body seemed to have been hit by a train. He vomited a mouthful of blood and flew out. At this moment, his profound energy was scattered, and he had no fighting power anymore. And at least 3 sternums are broken. Just one move. The battle is over. The victory is divided. The big gap is staggering. Snort. Ji Yuyan looked at Ling Jian, who was lying on the ground, and a touch of sorrow flashed in his eyes. He said coldly, the people in the Shen's military mansion are really embarrassing trash that can't get on the stage. The voice fell. The audience is silent. Is Ling Jian weak? The cultivation base of Yuexuan Peak is certainly not weak. But in front of Ji Yuyan, he was as fragile as paper. This is true that Ji Yuyan is too strong. What did this guy come up for? Xiao Ce, the young man of the 10,000 Swords Army mansion, is full of black lines. Come up first to save the United States by heroes, and then be overwhelmed by others. What is the smiling tiger doing, Ling Jian? Li raised his brows and frowned and muttered to himself. He even had a slight expectation when Ling Jian appeared on the stage. But now it seems that he is thinking too much. What's this stuff? Feng Ming's face is weird and his head is full of question marks. Is he okay? Ji Yuxian looked at Ling Jian, who fell to the ground and couldn't help clenching her fists, a touch of self-blame in her heart. And just when everyone is silent, an indifferent voice slowly sounded from the audience. Victory or defeat is standard issue. Ling Jian's defeat is indeed because of his poor academic skills, no wonder others. But what kind of thing is Ji Yuyan? You dare to speak out to insult my Shen's military mansion? You are thinking, dead. The icy voice resounded throughout the arena of gods. The atmosphere of silence was broken in an instant. The cultivator looked at the source of the sound with astonishment. There is the observation pavilion of the Shen's military mansion. At this moment, with a creak, the door opened. An extremely tall figure slowly walked out. He was wearing a black cloak that looked like a dark knight. It is engraved with the ancient dark red god pattern. The whole body seemed to be shrouded in a mist. The pupils that were black as ink and jade were indifferent to water under the light touch. A handsome and unremarkable face firmly attracted the attention of the audience and became the focus of everyone's attention. Is it the mysterious young palace master in the Shen's army mansion? The cultivator exclaimed with wide-eyed. Before, Ling Yao was too protective of Ling Tian. So not many people in Wudu have seen him. Although I haven't seen him. But everyone knows that in addition to Ling Jian, the Shen's army mansion has a real young palace lord named Ling Tian. Yes, he is the legendary young master Ling Tian. When he sent Ling Yao miss out a year ago, I was fortunate enough to meet him. Only, a young cultivator became more confused as he spoke, and his brows became more frowning. But what? The surrounding cultivators all looked over curiously. No, nothing. The young cultivator shook his head in confusion. His eyes looking at Ling Tian gradually became more and more strange. A year ago, he had seen Ling Tian from afar when Ling Yao led the Shen's army on an expedition. But at that time, he only felt that Ling Tian was an aristocratic young master who looked a little sick. The cultivation base is not high, and the temperament is soft, giving people a kind of approachable feeling, not like a young master of the military mansion at all. But look at it now. He even wondered if he had hallucinations. Ling Tian at this moment, wearing a cloak of dark night, is like a demon master. The whole body exudes a cold breath that makes people feel like an ice prison. A pair of eyes are as light as water. But it makes people afraid to look straight. Once I look straight, I feel my own soul has fallen into an endless abyss. Even if he didn't show any sharpness. But it makes people feel extremely frightened. Ling Tian, Xiao Ce, the young man of the Wanjian army mansion, and Li Ziyang, the young man of the Flame army mansion, looked at each other. They all saw the incredible light in each other's eyes. Compared with ordinary cultivator, these two young palace masters of the military government are more to Ling Tian. But even for them, they feel that Ling Tian in front of them is extremely strange. I haven't seen him for more than a year, how did this guy become so scary? Xiao Ce glanced at Ling Tian and then quickly took it back. A year ago, before Ling Yao had set off on the expedition, several of their young palace masters had a small gathering. But Ling Tian, who was as gentle as jade at that time, and now are completely different. You are too naive. Li Ziyang shook his head and thought about it slightly. Absolutely no one can change that much in a year. If I guessed correctly, this is what he really looks like. What? A flash of horror flashed in Xiao Ce's eyes, and he slightly lost his voice. You mean, this guy was pretending before? That's right. Li Ziyang nodded and looked at Ling Tian with some horror. Feng Ming's expression on the side is also slightly unnatural. He looked at Ling Tian, who exuded the breath of the abyss. The throat couldn't help but rolled, and said with great fear. If so, then this guy is terrifying. Look at Ji Yuxian again. Her beautiful eyes stared at Ling Tian in a daze. There is a slight loss of consciousness on a beautiful ice face that is difficult to paint. And Ling Tian's eyes, which seemed to be sentimental, glanced in her direction. His heartbeat accelerated suddenly as his eyes met. What? She couldn't help but subconsciously stepped back 3 steps with an exclamation. He quickly moved his eyes away, and didn't dare to look at Ling Tian again. She has a supreme bone, so she has a strong premonition of danger. And at this moment, she looked at Ling Tian. There is only one thought in my mind, that is that the man in front of me is extremely dangerous. Dash. Camera shift. Ling Tian retracted his gaze. Then his figure shook directly to the arena of the gods. Young palace master of the Shen's military mansion, Ling Tian. Ji Yuyan frowned slightly, her eyes a little surprised. For some reason, he could not perceive any breath and cultivation base in Ling Tian. Ha ha, Ling Tian sneered. Are the disciples of the Hidden Sword Villa so arrogant now? Even my Shen's Junfu dare to humiliate at will. Snort. Ji Yuyan snorted lightly with a deep disdain. The kid tells you the truth, the Shen's military mansion is not as strong as you think. Don't talk about humiliating your Shen's military mansion. Even if you destroy your Shen's military mansion, it will not be difficult for my Hidden Sword Villa. Looking at your big sis Ling Yao's face today, I will not embarrass you. Now take your dog and roll down, don't get in the way of my eyes here. Having said that, he turned his gaze to Ji Yuxian, who was under the arena of gods, and a flash of resentment flashed in his eyes. Today he is going to abolish Ji Yuxian anyway. Soon he picked up the own oracle stone and prepared to put it into the circle of the arena of the gods. And at this moment, Ling Tian's mouth turned up with a shallow arc. Then he actually put the own oracle stone in it first. And at this moment, the entire arena of the gods sounded a huge voice of law. Warrior Ling Tian challenges number 080 Warrior Ji Yuyan. God's arena opens, and the battle begins. The voice fell. The audience was in an uproar. The young man of the Shen's military mansion, Ling Tian, is going to fight against Ji Yuyan, the disciple of the Tibetan Sword Villa. Ling Tian, it seems that you cannot completely return to the Shen's army mansion today. Ji Yuyan turned his head and spoke with a gloomy expression on his face. Hearing the words, Ling Tian opened his mouth slightly and said in a playful manner. So cruel, can you keep a hand? Ha ha ha. Ji Yuyan raised his head and laughed, with a very gloomy tone. Keep a hand, this can't work. Keep your life if you want to stay. After all, the true essence riots all over him. As the light of Naji flickered, a scarlet sword appeared in his hand. Famous sword Kai Yan. Numerous cultivators in the arena of the gods suddenly recognized the sharp sword in Ji Yuyan's hand. The good guy even took out the Kai Yan sword. Will Ji Yuyan really want to kill Ling Tian? Xiao Ce, the young master of the Wanjian army mansion, frowned and murmured. Hidden Sword Villa is one of the 3 strongest spiritual gods in the martial god kingdom. But martial sage, Ling Yao's daughter of Shen's military mansion, is notorious for protecting shortcomings. Ling Tian is the most inverse scale that Ling Yao can't touch. If Ling Tian really died here today, then it is really possible that Ling Yao will never die with the Tibetan Sword Villa. Kill Ling Tian, he really dare not. But at least he can kill Ling Tian for half his life. Young Master Li Ziyang of the Flame Army Mansion spoke. After that, he turned his head and looked at Phoenix Shenzong's personal disciple Feng Ming. However, Feng Ming's face was extremely ugly at this moment. What's wrong, brother Feng Ming? Li Ziyang asked with some doubts. Ling Tian is not right. Maybe, Ji Yuyan can't help him. Feng Ming spoke in a low voice. Upon hearing this, Xiao Ce and Li Ziyang looked at each other, and their hearts were shocked. Arena of Gods. Ji Yuyan is holding the Kai Yan sword. There is a terrifying hot air wave all over the body slowly evaporating. The coercion of the 5 kingdoms of the king is released in this arena. Ling Tian, come and lead to death. Ji Yuyan snorted coldly. With a twist of his wrist, Kai Yan's sword power smashed down. The terrifying and scorching sword chi broke through the air in an instant. Zheng. The terrifying sword chi tore Ling Tian's body in the dull eyes of everyone. And the next second, I saw Ling Tian's star shadow slowly shattering on the arena. Afterimage, Ji Yuyan frowned slightly. At this moment, he scanned the surroundings looking for Ling Tian's location in unison. What? I don't know who exclaimed. Everyone covered their mouths one after another. His eyes were round, as if seeing something incredible. Even Xiao Ce, Li Ziyang, and Feng Ming were all frozen in place. Because Ling Tian has quietly stood behind Ji Yuyan at this moment. But Ji Yuyan didn't notice anything. Wrong. This guy has disappeared completely. Ji Yuyan's gaze scanned the arena of the gods. But it didn't get the slightest gain. Ling Tian seems to have disappeared out of thin air. Even the breath is gone. At this moment, a coldly voice rang in his ears. Are you looking for me? Hearing this, Ji Yuyan's face changed wildly. Turning around suddenly, his gaze happened to meet Ling Tian's indifferent eyes. You. His voice hasn't finished. I saw Ling Tian blast out a punch without fancy. The cry of the dragon rang in his ear. Bang. There was a muffled sound. Ji Yuyan's chest collapsed 3 inches. His body flew upside down like a cannonball and hit the wall of the law of the arena. Puff. He finally stabilized his body but still couldn't help but vomit a big mouthful of blood. Ji Yuyan was holding his painful chest, his face savage, and his voice trembling like an evil ghost. I want you to die. There is no doubt that he was murderous. But the voice just fell. He just felt cold all over by the shadow of a dark night. A feeling of extreme danger descends. He is preparing to raise his sword to meet. But the profound strength hadn't been raised yet, and the Kai Yan sword had not yet been swung. A strong wind came from his right side. Snapped. An extremely loud slap in the face resounded throughout the arena of the gods. Everyone heard clearly, as if hitting his own face crisply. Ji Yuyan was turned over by this slap and turned 1440 degrees before he could land. That's it. Ling Tian shook his numb hand, and a touch of ridicule passed in his eyes. Ji Yuyan's profound strength cultivation base is also in the 5th realm of conferred king. But he possessed an invincible melee and an evil spirit against the world. Coupled with the double bonus of strength and speed after the cultivation of Ji Belongshu and Star God broken shadows to the extreme realm. Ling Tian's real combat power far surpassed the 5 realms of Sealing Kings. What did Ji Yuyan use to fight against himself? Asshole. Ji Yuyan struggled to get up and shook his dizzy head. What you can see is that there is a red palm print on his face. The pain that the bones up and down his whole body seemed to be broken made his face bloodless. But the physical pain is far less than the mental torture and humiliation. His direct disciple of the dignified Hidden Sword Villa was slapped in front of tens of thousands of cultivators in the arena of the gods. Who can bear this? This slap not only hit his face, but obviously also hit the face of the Tibetan sword villa. Ling Tian, I will never die with you. Ji Yu Yan's voice was hoarse and bloodthirsty, and a scarlet flame was ignited on his body. Everyone can see it, he is burning his own potential, and he wants to fight Ling Tian. I can feel it, his power is in the crazy ascension. Seal King's 6 realms, the 7 realms, and at this moment, Ling Tian's figure flickered, the stars and shadows behind are blooming in the corner of the gods. A fist pierced past in the blazing light. At the same time, the sound of Wanlong's wailing sounded in everyone's ears. Boom, the terrifying profound power roars. A figure dyed with red flames flew upside down like a cannonball, but did not hit the wall of law. But straight through, it slammed on a pillar in the arena of gods. With the boom, the column trembles. Countless cracks spread quickly across the column. The figure that hit the pillar was strangely not bounced away, because half of his body was directly embedded in the pillar by that violent force. After a while, his body finally slipped slowly from the pillar, and then fell to the ground. He was full of blood, and he didn't know his life or death. When the camera shifted, I saw that the clothes on his chest had been completely shattered. The entire exposed chest was bloody, and the bones were faintly visible. And Ling Tian stood in place, holding his hands, smiling and saying, "Said to keep a hand. But you want to keep your half-life here. You really deserve to be a direct disciple of the Tibetan sword villa." Sure enough, he is a ruthless man. This fell with a mocking voice. The gaze of the audience was a little dull and looked at the figure lying on the ground. He is Ji Yu Yan. A chill surges from the soles of everyone's feet. It turns out that Ling Tian's foreshadowing was here just now. How can this be? Xiao Ce was stupid. Although he has done a good job, Ling Tian may have a strong heart building. However, it was completely unexpected that Ling Tian was so strong that he could play with the disciples of the Tibetan sword villa as a toy. What kind of monster is he? Li Ziyang's eyes flashed with fright. As I expected, this guy is very wrong. Feng Ming's face was a bit solemn. His strength is similar to Ji Yu Yan. If Ling Tian can easily defeat Ji Yu Yan, then obviously he can easily be defeated. His combat power is probably on par with the goddess. Feng Ming sighed softly. The goddess in his mouth is the goddess of Shenzong Phoenix Feng Qingcheng. At this moment, the entire arena of the gods is very noisy. The difference between the two is too big. That's right, the combat power of Ji Yu Yan and young master Ling Tian is no longer on the same level. The hidden sword villa will lose face this time. The direct disciple of Shenzong who practiced dignifiedly was destroyed by the young master of the military government. This is simply a crushing crush. Toy, a proper toy. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 40,000 mandate rewards. Ding. Congratulations to the host for acquiring the skill heaven-defying 7 magic knife. Listening to the clear and melodious system prompts sounded by the ear, Ling Tian slowly exhaled a suffocating breath and then opened the system task panel. Host. Ling Tian. Cultivation base. A realm of sealing the king. Physique. Evil heart against the world. Fetters. Demon heart chaos body. Comprehension. 50 can be enhanced with the increase of physique. Ability. 7 world-defying realms opened 0/7. Weapon. Dementor. Cultivation technique. Trilogy of Contemplating Soul, Star God Broken Shadow, Ultimate Dragon Technique, Heaven-defying 7 magic knife. Skill. Eye of Insight. Destiny Reserve. 49,000 Destiny. Number of puppets. 53. List can be expanded. The Wanji Mall has been opened, and the mission system has been opened. Heaven-defying 7 magic knife has arrived. Ling Tian suppressed the excitement in his heart, muttering to himself. You know, heaven-defying 7 magic knives are super magical powers worth 100,000 destiny. Now I finally have a life-saving hole card that can be called the bottom of the box. In addition, the 30,000 destiny rewards have also arrived. Ling Tian didn't hesitate to open the system mall and purchase the 7 Realms Unblocking Manual. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Handbook of Unblocking the 7 Realms of Adversity. Listening to the prompt sound of the system in the ear, Ling Tian breathed a sigh of relief and muttered to herself. Finally got it. At this time, a sound of breaking wind sounded. Ling Tian raised his hand and took the own oracle stone directly from the air. The above figures have slightly changed. Name: Ling Tian. Region: June Martial God Country. Points: 4021. God of War ranking: 80th. Taking a casual glance, Ling Tian directly threw the oracle stone into the ring. The points and rankings have no meaning to him. He doesn't even care. Because he has everything he wants. Stretching a lazy waist, Ling Tian slowly walked down the arena of the gods. Then he stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers at Ling Jian, who was lying unconscious in the corner. I saw that Ling Jian, who had collapsed to the ground, made a strange sound. The back arched strangely. Then he stood up slowly. In the dull eyes of everyone, he walked behind Ling Tian stiffly like a puppet. His face was full of blood, he didn't know how many bones he had broken, and his chest was bony and he looked terrifying. But even so, there is still no pain on his face, as if this body is not his at all. Hiss. When everyone saw this scene, they couldn't help feeling a chill in their backs. How is this going? Li Ziyang's eyes widened. Not understand. How come you have lost your soul? Feng Ming frowned also. Regarding Ling Jian's injury, it is no exaggeration to say that he lost half his life. This situation is completely counterintuitive now. Xiao Ce discovered Ling Jian's anomaly. But he didn't have time to think about it. Shook his head and hurriedly came to the unconscious Ji Yuyan and squeezed his wrist. But in the next second, Xiao Ce's face suddenly turned pale. Ji Yuyan's injury was 10 times more serious than he expected. Xiao Ce, my brother. How my brother, what's wrong? Ji Yulan, who just woke up, asked with a trembling voice. She already knows everything. She knew that her brother had lost. The face of Tibetan Sword Villa was slapped by Ling Tian. But she couldn't care about the face of the hidden Sword Villa, she only cared about Ji Yuyan's injury. Hearing this, Xiao Ce looked at Ling Tian a little disappointedly. Then he said with a sorrowful laugh. Brother Ji Yuyan, his sternum has been broken by 12. The profound veins of the whole body are broken in half. The profound arts are scattered. Every time Xiao Ce said, the hearts of everyone in the arena of gods would jump wildly. When he said that Ji Yuyan's profound veins had broken in half and his profound skills had been dissipated, the audience was in an uproar. Undoubtedly, the proud son of the Tibetan Sword Villa was completely abolished by Ling Tian. All of a sudden, everyone's eyes looked at Ling Tian completely changed. Everyone felt a cold breath pouring in from the spine and spreading quickly to the whole body. Ling Tian, you must not die. Ji Yulangsen's beautiful eyes stared at Ling Tian's voice very sadly. At this moment, she can't wait to cut it 1,000 times. Hearing this, Ling Tian glanced at Ji Yulangsen and didn't mean to care about her at all. Upon seeing this, Xiao Ce frowned and frowned. Young Palace Master Ling Tian. Do you know what your actions today will cause for the Shen's military mansion? Ha ha. Ling Tian smiled, then raised his finger and pointed at the bloody Ling Jian behind him. Xiao Ce. Just now, Ji Yuyan at the Hidden Sword Villa didn't hesitate to kill my son of the Shen's military mansion. Why didn't you come out to fight the injustice? And now, you want to talk to me about the consequences. Don't you think it's a bit ridiculous? You. Xiao Ce was speechless. What Ling Tian said was reconsidered. But when he thinks of Ji Yuyan's injury, his face becomes cold. He questioned Ling Tian with burning eyes. After all, he is also a direct disciple of Kangjian Villa. Why can't you be merciful? Why do you want to expand the situation? Hearing that, Ling Tian laughed loudly, the laughter was extremely mocking. What about Hidden Sword Villa? Why should I be merciful? Could it be because your Hidden Sword Villa is so powerful, you are one of the 3 giants in the kingdom of martial god? Don't forget, I am the young master of the Shen's army mansion. How can you insult me even a word of the Shen's army mansion? If I had to bear it today, how could I be worthy of the 800,000 strategists and soldiers fighting bloody battles in the frontier? How can I be worthy of the blood and the dead army soul that my Shen's military mansion shed on the battlefield? When Xiao Ce heard this, he opened his mouth, but he was like a knuckle in his throat. Chapter 21. Ling Tian's rhetorical question word Zuji made him speechless. Everyone in the martial god country knows it. In the large-scale national war with the Feathered Empire, although the 4 major military palaces have sent troops north to fight the enemy. However, only Shen's Junfu has done its best. At the same time, the losses are the heaviest. At this moment, the atmosphere of the arena of gods is a bit wrong. Countless cultivators and people remembered the achievements of the Shen's army in the past few years. The blood is surging in my heart, but each is sad. Young Master Ling Tian is right. The Shen's military mansion originally had 1.5 million troops, but now only 800,000 are left. Why do you insult such Shen's military mansion? General Ling Wei led 3,000 gods to face the army of 100,000 feathers, and defended the Dragon City for 7 days and 7 nights. In the end, all the heroic sacrifices were made. Have you forgotten? Mrs. Su Shui, after the death of General Ling Wei, she used her own strength to shoulder the important task of protecting the country and exhausted the last drop of blood on her body. Ling Yao Damis took the lead, led an army of 800,000 gods, regained most of the land lost in the martial god kingdom, and is still fighting against the enemy country. With such a feat, how dare you say insults? The battlefield of gods kept ringing angrily accusing voices. Xiao Xi's face keeps changing. Why doesn't he know the merits of Shen's military mansion? But Ji Yuyan was hurt in his eyes. What can he do? If you don't ask for justice, he won't be able to eat and walk around. And at this moment, Ji Yu Lengxin beside Xiao Xi suddenly said, Ling Tian, even if you take full advantage of heaven and earth, do you know that my senior brother Ji Yuyan and His Royal Highness are brothers and sisters? Even if I Hidden Sword Villa can bear it. But you see, His Highness the Son of God will definitely ask you for an explanation. Don't worry, you can't escape sanctions no matter what. Really, Feng Ming's expression was slightly cold. As expected, Ji Yulan was more sober. Now Ling Tian has taken advantage of the right time and place and people in. If Hidden Sword Villa wants to be held accountable and revenge, there is only one way now. That is the extremely terrifying His Royal Highness that moved out of the Tibetan Sword Villa. This is not the accountability of Kangjian Villa to Shen's military mansion. It is the personal accountability of the godchild to Ling Tian. No one can say more. Ling Tian heard this, a smile flashed in his eyes. It seems that he is just waiting for Ji Yu Lengxin's words. Immediately he opened his mouth leisurely. I, Ling Tian, don't need to explain to anyone. But if your godson insists on wanting, then just let him come to me. If my son is in a good mood, maybe I will consider seeing him at that time. But I just hope he doesn't confess himself in it. Otherwise, the scene will be ugly. The voice falls. The audience was in an uproar. Even Feng Ming was shocked. The goddess of the Hidden Sword Villa even feared the existence of his goddess among the Phoenix gods. It is the most dazzling evildoer in the kingdom of martial god. However, Ling Tian is so condescending. Between words, it's all overlooking. It's not at all to put in one's eyes. Good, you Ling Tian. Can I now think that you are trying to pick the majesty of His Highness God of War? Ji Yulan said in a gloomy tone. No, no, no. Ling Tian shook his head quickly. Corrected with a mocking face. You are wrong. It's not that I want to challenge your Highness the Son of God. It's that I gave your son of the gods a chance to challenge this son. Do you understand the woman? The voice fell. The audience is dead. The lens goes around. Everyone in the Horn of God was stunned, and an egg could be put in their mouths. They never thought that Ling Tian was crazy to this point. How dare to provoke the enchanting godchild of Hidden Sword Villa face to face? You know, that His Royal Highness in the kingdom of martial god can be described as an extinct existence. Ling Tian, please also remember what you said today. When I wait for the Temple of God to descend to Linwu in the future, I hope you can still speak out with courage. Let's go. After that, Ji Yu Lengxin disappeared in the corner of the gods with Xiao Xi and the unconscious Ji Yuyan. No, Ling Tian's brows slanted. Xindao, comfortable, another big fish is about to be hooked. Among them, as early as when the system hidden task was taken. He thought about all the follow-up operations. First of all, let Ling Jian appear to play at the porcelain Tibetan Sword Villa. Then he made a move to relieve Ji Yuyan and then abolished Ji Yuyan. This can ensure Ji Yuxian's safety and smooth completion of the hidden task. It can also provoke the Tibetan Sword Villa to the greatest extent within a degree that one can control. As for the purpose, it is for His Highness the Son of God of the Hidden Sword Villa. One stone two bird. As for, why do you want to fight against the godson of Tibetan Sword Villa? This is because Ling Tian realized. This is definitely an excellent opportunity to accumulate your own strength. Hold the trilogy in your own hand. But at this time, only Ling Jian, a tool with a little value, is available. No matter how you look at it, it's a bit wasteful. If I can turn the godson of Tibetan Sword Villa into an own tool man, it is equivalent to controlling most of the Tibetan Sword Villa. In this way, when you complete the main task of the Kingslayer, will it be countless times easier. Ling Tian's hand gently rubbed the ring, his eyes flashed with threatening light. It is precisely because of this. Therefore, it is a perfect excuse to provoke a fight. After all, if he couldn't get out of the Hidden Sword Villa, how could he do it himself? After the group of Hidden Sword Villa left, the cultivators began to withdraw one after another. Li Ziyang, young palace master of the Flame Army Mansion, specially came to say hello to Ling Tian before leaving. He reminded Ling Tian to be careful of the words of His Highness that Godchild in the Sword Villa was full of concerns. Ling Tian responded with a smile to his favor. But he would not regard Li Ziyang as a friend. After all, people with this level of status. But there are no so-called friends, and interests always come first. And the Fengming from Phoenix Shenzong. He didn't say much, just took a deep look at Ling Tian, his eyes were full of fear. Upon seeing this, Ling Tian just smiled. Phoenix Shenzong has no threat to him for the time being, so don't care what they think of own, and don't need to pay too much attention to it. However, Ling Tian has noticed that the Ji Yuxian miss who has the supreme bone has left quietly. But he didn't care, because, he knew, Ji Yuxian was a person who had kindness and must repay. Soon she will visit her in person. Therefore, he is not in a hurry. Just wait for the rabbit. The turmoil set off today is probably not small. I must be able to fall through the eyes of many people, and many people will feel restless because of this. Ling Tian smiled slightly and said to himself. As Ling Tian expected. What happened in the arena of God on this day quickly spread throughout the kingdom of martial God. Countless cultivators were all amazed when they heard that Ji Yuxian crossed a big realm and cut off an arm of Ji Yulan's heart in the sealed king realm. And when I learned that Ling Tian, when Ji Yuyan, the second personal disciple of the Hidden Sword Villa, was abolished by a horrifying method, it was even more shocking that he couldn't close his mouth. Not only that, but what people talk about most is, Ling Tian dared to provoke His Highness Ji Yu Luokong, the son of God of Tibetan Sword Villa. You know, Ji Yu Luokong is one of the strongest young people in the martial god country. He was given the name of the young sword fairy, and there are many worshippers in the martial god country. And now these followers desperately want to see the godson Ji Yu Luokong take the initiative to suppress Ling Tian. As predicted, when the news fermented to the attention of the entire martial god country, the Hidden Sword Villa released a piece of news, Godson is out. When this news came out, the entire martial god kingdom was boiling. Afterwards, the response of the Tibetan Sword Villa detonated the entire martial god country. Ji Yu Luokong, the son of God, has two purposes for leaving the customs this time. 1. To find Ling Tian to seek justice for his junior and junior sisters. 2nd, it is to propose marriage to the martial emperor, Princess Zheng Weiyang. As we all know, Ji Yu Luokong fell in love at first sight when he saw Zheng Weiyang, princess of martial god, when he was 14. He has publicly announced many times that Zheng Weiyang is his intended fiancée. Whoever wants to get involved in delusion will surely endure his anger. Although these words are overbearing, they are also understandable. After all, who doesn't know about martial god? The eldest princess Zheng Weiyang has the unparalleled fairy posture in the world, and is the most stunning of Zhenwu. There are many arrogances in the world, all because after meeting Zheng Weiyang. From then on, T does not think of food, sees the mountain as not the mountain, sees the sea as not the sea. Therefore, it is normal for Ji Yu Luokong to be obsessed with Zheng Weiyang. It's just that everyone is surprised. Soon after the news came out, Ji Yu Luokong immediately took his 4 sword servants and left the Tibetan Sword Villa in a profound arc. He will arrive at Wudu in 7 days at the latest. And his response to Ling Tian only has one sentence: please take the blame, or at your own risk. Although this sentence was brief, it made countless people perceive his domineering as the invincible god's son. At the same time, this sentence also attracted the attention of countless cultivators throughout the empire to Wudu. Everyone wants to know, will Ling Tian smash to the end with Ji Yu Luokong, or confess her counsel and then take Jing to plead guilty? I also want to know whether the eldest princess Jun Weiyang will marry Ji Yu Luokong. At this time, Wudu can be said to have become the focus of worldwide attention, and it is no exaggeration. Tianyi Army Mansion, Wang Yu upstairs. Cold and cold can't cover her full and enchanting exquisite body. She still uses Yi Qingluo's body. Although she doesn't reject it, but she also feels that this body is too troublesome. Because the size is too large, she is very unaccustomed to. In addition, Yi Qingluo's face is unparalleled and flawless. But compared to her own appearance, it's still more than 3 points different. So, she doesn't bother to look in the mirror on weekdays. But she is a little different today. Her beautiful eyes looked at the realm a little stupidly. The expression on a fairy-like ice face is constantly changing. The full chest that wants to support the snow-breaking clothes is constantly ups and downs. Obviously the mood swings are a bit intense. She is obviously thinking about something. In Wangyu Forest, that guy uses Devil Dao profound power. But in the arena of the gods, that guy clearly uses divine power. Except for me in this world, how can there be a second person with the ability of dual cultivation of gods and demons? What's the matter? She ruled out all possibilities. After thinking of something, Zhao Chu suddenly trembled. Could it be? The cold and pretty face suddenly changed, and the red lips slightly opened and lost his voice. The evil heart is against the world. There are 2 physiques in the world for dual cultivation of gods and demons. One is her devilish chaos body. But this physique can only appear in women. Therefore, Ling Tian can only be a wicked body against the world. He turned out to be my fetter. The man of destiny. Cold red lips slightly open. A stunning icy face was full of astonishment. My mind became a mess. She is the Empress Devil Dao. According to legend, she is cruel and unfeeling. But if it is truly suffocating, it's really impossible to talk about it. Actually, she doesn't believe in fate. But she, who is extremely conceited, has indeed been curious about her destiny. What kind of man can be her destiny? What she didn't expect was, she killed 9 heavens all the way, ascended to the throne, ruled over 90,000 star realms, and became the lord of hundreds of millions of beings and never met. After that, she gave up. She is on the top of 9 heavens. What man do you want? What man is worthy of her coldness? But never expected. After she was reborn from the fall, she encountered. He gave a cold sigh and then asked in a cold voice to the sky. The emperor just accepted an apprentice. But you told him that he was the man of the emperor's destiny. Heavenly Tao, are you teasing the emperor? After the violent ups and downs of emotions, the violent light in the beautiful eyes subsided a little. She now has 2 options. 1. Nothing happened to her. She continued to implement her own plan, and returned to the top 3,000 years later, avenging the Empress Rin to 9 heavens. 2nd, overthrow Ling Tian, complete the fetters, and let the soul sublimate, so that it does not take 3,000 years, maybe 300 years to be able to return to the peak. The question is, does she push or not? If she does not push, then it will take her at least 3,000 years to stand in front of the Empress Rin Yu again. She can't seem to wait. But if you decide to push, so how do you push it? You must know that she is now Ling Tian's teacher in name. If she is so hard, she can't do this kind of thing. She still wants a face. After all, there is no master to own apprentice, right? If you can't force it, then might as well change your mind. Lu Han's eyebrows are frivolous, as if thinking of something. The rose-like lips formed a shallow arc. Maybe there is a way. At this moment, except for the cold, Ling Tian's mood is in a mess. In addition, there is a woman who is disturbed because of Ling Tian. She is the princess of June martial god Jun Weiyang. In Wangyu Forest, Ling Jian didn't kill him, but became his own. In the arena of the gods, he defeated Ji Yuyan of the Hidden Sword Villa with a force of destruction. He has been disguising all these years. In what way can this guy hide the truth from the people of the world? It's been hidden from this palace. Jun Weiyang sits in an attic in Weiyang Palace. She was holding a cup of cool tea in her hand, and the mood in her beautiful eyes was constantly changing. She kept playing back in her mind. In the past few years, Ling Tian's every move in front of her, every word. It's annoying to be emotionally affected by a person, but it can also be sweet. Don't ignore me, let's make up. Wei Yang, let me love you well, okay. Wei Yang, how about I support you? Miss your knight. Let's elope. Back then, that person was full of hearts and eyes, but she was all it can be said to be humble. And no matter how she thinks back, she still feels that Ling Tian has no flaws at all. Has this guy's acting skills reached such a superb level? Jun Weiyang's full chest rises and falls violently. Suddenly, a sense of frustration surged in her heart. She is a very conceited woman. From a young age, she knew how destructive her own appearance was for men. But she is by no means a vase. She has terrible means. Can unknowingly turn the man who covets her into a tool. Even Ji Yu Luokong, the godson of the Tibetan sword villa, has been used as a spear by her several times. Moreover, after several years of getting along, Ji Yu Luokong hadn't even touched her finger. But even so, Ji Yu Luokong is still happy and addicted. From this point alone, we can see how powerful her methods are. But what she didn't expect was Ling Tian, who thought she was the best control at the beginning, perfectly deceived her. All the good things Ling Tian had done to her before, all the sweet words that she said. It turned out to be acting every time. And she was even complacent, thinking that she had completely controlled Ling Tian's heart and soul. When she thought of this, her heart was filled with unrest and frustration that she had never experienced before. Ling Tian, my palace won't let you just be so arrogant. Jun Weiyang gritted his silver teeth and muttered to himself bitterly. And at this moment, Maid Yueme came to the attic and reminded softly. His Royal Highness, the 3 major killer organizations have rejected your reward order. They all replied that Ling Tian has too many secrets and too much involvement. Need a price increase. Upon hearing this, Jun Weiyang nodded. She can predict this result. After the storm in the arena of gods, Ling Tian became famous in one battle. Many people now want to know how strong Ling Tian is. But no one can know. Even the omnipotent Tianji Pavilion cannot rate Ling Tian. This shows how mysterious Ling Tian's current strength is. It is reasonable for the 3 major killer organizations to demand price increases. Fine, quote, Jun Weiyang asked in a cold voice. The world requires 800,000 purple profound crystal. The Ranit organization requires 1 million Ziswanjing. The underworld requires 1.5 million purple profound crystals. You may whisper the offer of the 3 major killer organizations. Upon hearing this, Jun Weiyang spoke very decisively. Contact the Netherworld. Understood. Yu Mei nodded. She knows the character of Her Royal Highness very well. As long as the best, the price doesn't matter. So this decision was also within her expectations. And at this moment, she seemed to think about the troubles of the outside world, and then she said, His Royal Highness, do we really need to spend such a big price to contact the underworld to assassinate Ling Tian? Ling Tian offended Ji Yu Luokong, the godson of Tibetan Sword Villa. We might as well wait for Ji Yu Luokong to clean him up. Upon hearing this, Jun Weiyang shook his head and said, You Mei, what you think is too simple. Ling Tian has concealed her strength for so many years, and her scheming is so deep that this palace has only seen it in her life. Since he dared to showdown and provoke Ji Yu Luokong, Hidden Sword Villa, then it proves that he doesn't want to play again. He is sure that Ji Yu Luokong can't help him. So if you want to kill Ling Tian, you have to ask the underground palace to do it. Yu Mei suddenly realized when she heard that. Then she thought of something softly and asked, His Royal Highness, about Ji Yu Luokong's coming to propose marriage to the royal family. What are you going to do? Could it be that you really want to marry Ji Yu Luokong? Snort. Jun Weiyang snorted coldly. Ji Yu Luokong. Is he worthy? Then she seemed to remember something. A touch of warmth was revealed on the pretty face of the beautiful Chingcheng and slowly said, This matter only needs to ventilate my palace to the emperor's father. If the emperor father knows the heart of this palace, his old man will definitely be the master of this palace. As long as his elders don't allow it, even the Hidden Sword Villa can't help this palace. Yu Mei nodded heavily. She grew up with Jun Weiyang since she was a child. Although the status of master and servant. But the two are in love with sisters. Therefore, it is natural to know that martial emperor Jun Xiaoyao, who is in the world, has been very fond and respectful of her family since childhood. As long as it is Jun Weiyang's request, Jun Xiaoyao will unconditionally satisfy him. There is even a rumor in the Junwu dynasty hall that Jun Weiyang will become the first female emperor of Jun martial god. And she also knows. Jun Weiyang is very interested in the position of Jun martial god. What is a man? It's just a stepping stone for this palace to ascend to the throne. Ji Yu Luokang is Ling Tian. He will eventually be. Jun Weiyang spoke coldly. An extremely beautiful, glamorous and holy face lifted up a very cool smile that was inconsistent with its temperament. However, after Ling Tian returned to the Shen's military mansion. But there is no time to pay attention to what the outside world has to say about him. Not to mention the threatening words from Ji Yu Luokang. He hurriedly opened the unblocking manual of 7 Realms of Adversity. The first stage of the 7 world-defying realms, transforming God. Transformation of God. The power of the gods and demons will reach the world-defying realm after the first smelting. Active. Turn on the god of transformation, can swallow the sky and the earth, swallow all the energy in the world for your own use. Passive. Absorb the vitality of heaven and earth all the time. Unblocking conditions. A drop of blood from the blood of the gods and demons is enough. Ling Tian couldn't help but roll his throat looking at the ability of this first stage. Good guy, the active effect of this first world-defying realm transforming God, swallowing all energy and turning it into your own use. Imagine a little, if I turn on the gods, wouldn't it be the cultivation base, the origin, and the power to fully ascension myself? Isn't this the legendary skill of swallowing heavenly demon, but it's more perverted than the skill of swallowing heavenly demon. Moreover, the passive effect of transforming the gods seems to be on-hook cultivation. It's just an ordinary on-hook cheating cultivation device. After watching the first stage of the 7 world-destroying realms, Ling Tian suppressed the excitement and then looked down. But what I got was just a few words, no permission for the time being. The system will come out and explain. Ling Tian is full of black lines. He finally raised 30,000 mandate points. You told me that I can only watch 1/7. Ding. The system prompts that as long as the host successfully unlocks the first seal, the permission can be opened. Hearing that, Ling Tian waved his hand. If it is like this, it's okay. Now, it's time to think about how to unseal the first world-destroying seal. Ling Tian whispered to himself. The conditions for unblocking are a drop of effort from a person with the blood of the gods and demons. At this time, Ling Tian immediately jumped out of his mind Ji Yu Xian. There is no doubt that this woman has the blood of gods and demons. Moreover, she is a woman who has the heroine setting, and she has 200,000 destiny points to be tapped. Now, she has become a key figure in understanding the first stage of the world. This woman, it's really love, Ling Tian exclaimed. And at this moment, soldiers from the Shen's military mansion were notified. Young Palace Lord, Devil Dao Sword Fairy, Ji Yu Xian is here. Hearing that, Ling Tian raised his eyebrows. Bring her in. After that, he said in his heart, it's really time for this woman to come. She came right now when she needed her painstaking effort. But the problem also came. How can I get her painstaking effort? You know, hard work and blood essence are not the same. The hard work is extremely precious. If a drop of effort is lost, it may take several years to reconsolidate if there are no accidents. Moreover, without the hard work, her practice speed in the next few years may be 30% off. He knew when he observed Ji Yu Xian through the eye of insight before. To save little sister and her mother, what she desires most now is power. If the speed of practice slows down, she definitely cannot accept it. The crux of the problem is that Ji Yu Xian must surrender this painstaking effort willingly by herself. Can't forcibly ingest. It's really hard. Ling Tian rubbed his eyebrows and felt a little distressed. And at this moment, the sound of footsteps sounded. Ji Yu Xian came to his courtyard. She saw Ling Tian standing under the peach tree. Today Ling Tian still wears that dark night cloak. For some reason, she closely watched Ling Tian's back, her heartbeat accelerated involuntarily. A feeling of danger surged from the bottom of my heart. This is her supreme bone giving her warning. Remind her, be wary of Ling Tian. Quiet. Ji Yuxian stretched out her jade hand and gently pressed her heart to suppress the vibration of qi and blood forcibly. And at this moment, Ling Tian slowly turned around, his expression has returned to normal. A pair of clear eyes seemed to be able to cut through the waking night and penetrate people's hearts. Welcome Xian Miss to the cold house. Ling Tian smiled slightly and said almighty opening remarks. Xi Yan has seen Palace Master Yang. Ji Yuxian nodded gently to Ling Tian. After greeting each other, the two fell into an awkward silence. Ji Yuxian is not good at words. But Ling Tian didn't know what to do next to get Ji Yuxian's painstaking effort. I can't ask for it directly, right? Or just use the trilogy of contemplating the soul to break her soul first. And at this moment, Ji Yuxian broke the embarrassment first and said, Xian is here today. It is to thank the young palace lord for his righteous act that day. Ha ha. Ling Tian heard this and smiled slightly embarrassed. And at this moment, Ji Yuxian suddenly raised her head and looked at Ling Tian's eyes with beautiful eyes and asked. If Xian guessed right, Xian should have what the young master wants. Otherwise, Palace Master Yang will not offend Hidden Sword Villa for Xian. Ling Tian was taken aback. He didn't expect Ji Yuxian to see through herself directly. Young Palace Master, don't be surprised. Because I have some special reasons, I am a basic warning of danger. And every time Xi Yan sees Palace Master Yang, she has such a strong premonition. So there is such a guess. Ji Yuxian's red lips slightly opened, a beautiful face is very calm. Everyone outside thinks Ling Tian abolished him because Ji Yuyan insulted the Shen's military mansion. But she knows, Ling Tian's purpose is her. And the special reason in her mouth is the supreme bone. And she was never a narcissist. Never felt that Ling Tian saved her because of her beauty or her body. Therefore, she can only have what Ling Tian wants. If young Palace Master, if you have a request, just say it. Ji Yuxian's beautiful eyes stared at Ling Tian in a daze. She doesn't like to owe others. So she is serious. In that case, I'll just say it. Ji Yuxian's words are just for this. He's straightforward now. I want a drop of your hard work. Ling Tian spoke very directly. Hearing this, Ji Yuxian was silent for a moment. The mood in a pair of beautiful eyes is constantly changing. She was obviously hesitant. Upon seeing this, Ling Tian sighed slowly. Sure enough, if you practice as your life for a visionary, you have been fighting in the arena of the gods from the age of 9. This kind of request made by a woman who takes her life to become stronger, it really doesn't work. Does it have to be a trilogy of soul catching? Ling Tian's mind is slightly sinking. And at this moment, Ji Yuxian seemed determined to speak seriously. I can give you a drop of my blood. She knows how much it will affect her practice if she loses a drop of her mind. However, she doesn't like to owe others. As long as it doesn't touch her bottom line, she can respond. Even if she knew that losing her effort would have an impact on her practice, she felt that she could bear it. After all, Ling Tian saved her. Otherwise, Ji Yuyan would be caught back to the Hidden Sword Villa. I am afraid it would not be so simple. She still knows this. Hearing this, Ling Tian was stunned. He never thought that Ji Yuxian only hesitated a little and agreed. But I have a request. Ji Yuxian's beautiful eyes looked at Ling Tian earnestly. You say. Ling Tian nodded. I hope you can keep this matter secret. Because I will be weak for half a month after taking out a drop of blood. And I don't want others to know about it. Upon hearing this, Ling Tian was taken aback. He thought that Ji Yuxian's requirements would be very demanding. But unexpectedly, it turned out to be confidential. That's all? Ling Tian asked in disbelief. That is it. Ji Yuxian nodded. I will keep it secret. Ling Tian made a serious promise. Okay, let's borrow your room for a use. Wait for 1 hour. After Ji Yuxian said, turned around and walked towards Ling Tian's room. Such a free and easy look. Let Ling Tian watching her feel a little lost. It doesn't seem to be that difficult, it's even easy. An hour's time passed in a hurry. Ling Tian kept guarding outside the door during this waiting time and did not leave. Crunch. The door opened. Ji Yuxian walked out slowly. The moonlight falling on her is very beautiful. But there is a touch of sadness and paleness on her beautiful face that is difficult to paint. Even the few steps she walked out of the room felt shaky. Successful. Ji Yuxian smiled at Ling Tian. Then raised the jade hand. Raised a transparent bottle in her hand. There was a drop of blood flowing with a dark golden glow. There is no doubt that this is her painstaking effort. After all, she swayed for a while. I want to fall behind. Seeing this, Ling Tian came to her side in a flash. Hastily stretched out his hand to embrace her slender and soft willow waist, and dragged her falling body. How are you? Ling Tian asked softly. Ji Yuxian nodded gently to Ling Tian. Then struggling to leave Ling Tian's embrace. She has been accustomed to being alone since she was a child, so she is not used to having such close contact with men. Give you. I am leaving. Ji Yuxian handed the bottle to Ling Tian's hand. Then, he picked up his slightly old black military uniform. Ready to walk directly to the outside of Shenzhen's mansion. Looking at Ji Yuxian Guoju's back, Ling Tian was silent for a while and then asked. Ji Yuxian, you know that your practice efficiency will drop by 30% after you lose your mind. Why are you still willing to give it to me? Hearing that, Ji Yuxian's footsteps. She tilts her head slightly, her side face is beautiful. The jawline with the perfect curve. It looks amazing against the moonlight. She replied with a slightly pursed red lips like a rose. What does it matter if the efficiency of practice is reduced by 30%? I just need to work 3 times harder than usual, isn't it all right? Besides, Ji Yuxian doesn't like to owe anyone anything. Ling Tian listened to these words, suddenly speechless. But he still said sincerely. Ji Yuxian, you are really special. Ji Yuxian trembled. I thought to myself, this guy wouldn't know that he has a supreme bone, right? Yes, what's special? Ji Yuxian gritted her silver teeth and replied tentatively. Then, Ling Tian raised the corner of his mouth slightly and said jokingly. It always seems to be very cruel to myself. But it's also special, it hurts. Heard the last sentence. Ji Yuxian's delicate body trembled suddenly. A glimpse of dullness and Shahong passed on a stunning face that was more beautiful than Haoyu. Then she gritted her silver teeth and fled the Shen's military mansion like smoke. That's right, she didn't have to go. It's completely used to escape. She is actually not angry at Ling Tian's frivolity. It's because she didn't want Ling Tian to hear her uncontrolled violently accelerated heartbeat. After escaping from Shen's military mansion. After a while, Ji Yuxian calmed down her violent beating heart. She looked at the direction of the Shen's military mansion with beautiful eyes and whispered. Asshole, just speak well when you speak. Why use that kind of pampering tone to make people misunderstand? After that, she shook her head and disappeared into the night. The camera turns back to the Shen's military mansion. Ling Tian didn't know that her casual jokes could completely make Ji Yuxian, this woman, sleep well tonight. At this moment, he quietly stared at the dark golden blood flowing in the transparent bottle. Then he opened the bottle cap and directly incorporated this drop of blood into his body. Zheng, I saw a dark golden light blooming from his eyes. At the same time, he can feel that the sealed realm in a certain part of his body is slowly relieving the sealing and heating up. An extremely strange feeling completely envelops his body and mind. And at this moment, a clear system reminder sounded in his ear. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully unblocking the world-destroying 7 realms of God. Hear the sound of the system prompt. Ling Tian slowly exhaled a mouthful of foul breath. Finally unblocked. At this moment he can clearly feel. A realm in my body is shining brightly. Moreover, the vitality and essence between heaven and earth are pouring into his body spontaneously. At the moment when the purest vitality and essence in the world poured in, the profound energy that caused him to be in the first state of the king suddenly smashed through the valve, and he broke into the second state of the king in an instant. Not only that, but he could also clearly perceive that his own body was slowly being washed by the essence of heaven and earth. He knew that this was the passive effect of the world-destroying, world-transforming God. Immediately afterwards, he settled down, and then opened the system mall. And in the column of weapons and equipment, purchased a weapon, the Oracle Knife. Now Ling Tian has a super strong trump card, heaven-defying 7 magic knife. If there is no knife, how can it work? In the end, he fixed his gaze on the Buddha's Fury Tanglian, which is worth 10,000 mandates. I finally bought it cruelly. The profound arc of Jiyu Luokong in Tibetan Sword Villa will arrive in Wudu in 7 days. If let him arrive at Wudu, then Ling Tian has no chance to start. Therefore, Ling Tian must solve him before he arrives in Wudu. And this Tang clans know. One hidden weapons Buddha Fury Tang Lian is his next player. In order to prevent the super powerhouse of Hidden Sword Villa from secretly protecting Jiyu Luokong from destroying his plan. Although expensive, but worth it. Ling Tian nodded and then subconsciously opened the system panel. Host, Ling Tian, Cultivation Base, the second realm of Sealing the King. Physique, Evil Heart against the World. Fetters, Demon Heart Chaos Body. Comprehension, 50 can be enhanced with the increase of physique. Weapons, Contemplating Flute, Oracle's Knife, Tang clans know. One hidden weapons Buddha Fury Tang Lian can be used once. Cultivation Technique, Trilogy of Contemplating Soul, Star God Broken Shadow, Ultimate Dragon Technique, Heaven Defying 7 Magic Knife. Skill, Eye of Insight, the 7 World Defying Realms, Transforming God opened. Mandate Reserve, 4,000 mandate. Number of puppets, 53. List can be expanded. The Wanji Mall has been opened, and the mission system has been opened. After looking at the own property panel again, after confirming that everything is normal, Ling Tian took a deep breath and whispered softly. Now everything is ready. You can be ready to act at any time. 6 days passed in a hurry. The atmosphere of the cultivators in Wudu City has become more and more elevated with the passage of time. The latest news is that the profound arc of the Hidden Sword Villa has already flown over the Muji Sea and is about to reach the magical beasts forest. If you remember correctly, after the profound arc has passed the magical beasts forest, you will be able to reach the Wind's Breath City. Right, as long as you arrive at Fengshicheng, you can reach Wudu within a few hours through the teleportation array. Good fellow, His Royal Highness is really about to come. The sky of Wudu, I'm afraid it will change. Also on this day, the martial emperor announced that it had begun preparing a banquet for the goddess Jiyu Luokong. The whole Wu was busy, and everyone began to prepare to meet Jiyu Luokong. Of course, many people are looking at the Shen's military mansion. After all, half of the reason Jiyu Luokong came for Ling Tian. But what disappoints everyone is, in the past 6 days, there has been no movement in the Shen's military mansion. At this moment, the atmosphere in Shen's army mansion is very solemn. One after another black shadows stand. They all wore evil ghost masks on their faces, and their bodies exuded extremely cold breath. These people are just the core figures of the 53rd in the Crying Blood building after the soul is broken by Ling Tian. And Ling Tian is in the first place, holding a picture stone from the border in his hand. This photo-taking stone was sent by Ling Yao, Ling Tian's big sis, from the Zhengwu border consignment. The news in the photo stone said, the border war has ceased and the two countries are about to start negotiations. She will rush back to Wudu within half a month. Is she coming back? Ling Tian was silent for a moment. To be honest, Ling Yao is the best person to Ling Tian in this world. But the original Ling Tian no longer exists. Therefore, Ling Tian didn't know how to face her. Fine. Ling Tian let out a suffocating breath, shook his head and muttered to herself. They come, the security. Let's talk about everything until we meet. After all, he commanded to the elite of the Weeping Blood building. Next, you secretly show me Ji Yuxian. If you have any news, send me a message immediately. Yes, Shishuiga's elite responded in unison. Ji Yuxian is Ling Tian's destiny value big gold mine. So there can be no mistakes. Moreover, she just gave Ling Tian a drop of effort. She will be very weak in half a month. Therefore, Ling Tian must guarantee the safety of Ji Yuxian if he wants to cry blood building. After the order is over, Ling Tian put on the cloak of dark night, opened the invisibility, and disappeared directly in place. In Wudu City, no one noticed that a slender figure merged with the night and headed away in the direction of the magical beasts forest. Except for someone in Tianyi Jun's mansion. June Martial God Central Region, Magical Beasts Forest. The jungle here is densely covered with big trees towering into the clouds, and the area is winding hundreds of thousands of miles. From the top to the bottom, it is completely an endless sea of forest. There are countless fierce profound beasts in it. It is indeed one of the most dangerous places in the kingdom of martial god. In this dangerous place, except for the desperate lunatic, there are not many cultivators who dare to go deep into it. At this moment, under a huge shadow above the sky, the wind whistling brought by the terrifying coercion bent countless ancient trees. Roar! The profound beasts in the entire magical beasts forest began to raging. The screaming roar resounded through the clouds. Scarlet and bloodthirsty pupils lit up in the gloomy jungle. At this time, a huge profound arc descended through the clouds. The profound arc is huge, like a giant beast covering the sky. Above the mast of the ship is a dark flag. A sword is engraved on the banner. This sword is the holy sword of Hidden Sword Villa. So there is no doubt that this profound arc also comes from the Tibetan Sword Villa. The lens zooms in. 4 figures stood on the profound arc. They are wearing the armor of Hidden Sword Villa. Everyone is carrying an ancient sword behind them, unscrupulously releasing the soaring sword intent. At the same time, the 4 pairs of pupils with sword intent looked around vigilantly. And at this moment, the main cabin door in the profound arc opened. A tall figure slowly walked out. He is dressed in an elegant white brocade. There was a touch of indifference on the handsome face with sharp horns like a carved axe and chisel. The whole person has a peerless edge that can split the sky. You have a faintly ethereal etherealness. He is the godson of Tibetan Sword Villa Gu Luokang. Meet His Highness the Son of God. The 4 sword servants knelt down in front of the young man respectfully. How long will it take to arrive at Wudu? Gu Luokang asked while standing on the bow of the profound arc, overlooking the endless green forest. Tell the master that we can cross the magical beasts forest in 1 day and arrive at Windbreath City. After that, it only takes 3 hours before we can reach Wudu. A sword attendant replied very clearly. Is there another day? Very good. This time, it's impossible for this godson to return empty-handed. There was a frantic smile on Gu Luokang's stern face. As everyone knows, his admiration for Jun Weiyang, the elder princess of the martial god, has reached the level of obsession. Even the elders of Hidden Sword Villa are against. But he still has no hesitation. But it was also because of his persistence that finally let the high levels of the Tibetan Sword Villa let go. Allow him to bring the bride price personally to propose marriage to June Martial Emperor's room. Sword slave congratulations to the master for fulfilling his wish. The 4 sword servants congratulated. You guys get up. Gu Luokang waved his hand. The 4 sword servants got up after hearing the order. Then they thought of something and asked. His Royal Highness, Princess Weiyang can't escape your palm this time. But the young palace master of the Shent's army mansion, what about Ling Tian? He offended the Tibetan Sword Villa, what should we do? Snort. Gu Luokang snorted coldly. What is Ling Tian? If he obediently pleaded guilty to my son, as I said, he might be able to spare his life. But if he is still obsessed with it, then the seat will kill him. What will happen? His big sis, Ling Yao, really dared to lead an army of 800,000 divine strategies to flatten my villa. And at this moment, a strange haze descended on the void. The faces of Gu Luokang and his 4 sword servants suddenly changed. The profound energy in the body surged instantly. His eyes are like an aurora, looking around with extreme vigilance. At this time, they suddenly discovered in horror. The entire magical beasts forest has become extremely quiet. Quiet is a bit scary. It can be said that the needle fall can be heard. Only the wind whistling. Suddenly, Gu Luokang's gaze suddenly locked in front of him, his eyes condensed suddenly. In front of the profound arc, a strangely long figure appeared strangely. He was wearing a black cloak that looked like a dark night. It is engraved with the ancient dark red god pattern. There was a faint smile on a handsome face. Waiting for you for a long time. Ling Tian smiled and spoke. Are you Ling Tian? Gu Luokang frowned and his tone was a little weird. Then he laughed. The smile is chilling. It's me. Ling Tian smiled and nodded. At the same time, he used the eyes of insight to directly see Gu Luokang thoroughly. Name: Gu Luokang. Cultivation base. The sealed Holy Lord Cultivation base. Hint: he can unlock the seal at any time. Weapon: Chi Shao sword. Talent: Ancient Jianxin. Kendo realm. Into the micro realm. Xuandao cultivation technique. Pulling the sword and cutting the sky, secret technique. 3 swords to seal the sky, 1 sword to cut the star, the sword of nothingness, etc. 79 items can be expanded. Destiny potential. 70,000 destiny. Perseverance. Jun Wei Yang. Expand more. Looking at Ji Yu Luokang's message. Ling Tian's eyes light up. The fate value potential reaches 70,000 points. Although he is not as good as Ji Yu Xian, the fateful daughter. But it is indeed a big fish that makes people greedy. However, this big fish is obviously not so easy to solve. Because he owns the cultivation base in the Holy Lord realm. Although it is sealed, it can be unlocked at any time. 20-year-old Holy Lord realm. Sure enough, it is Tianzong's capital. But it's okay. Ling Tian's eyes flickered with a sneer in her heart. He had anticipated the situation today. Ling Tian, this godson has long heard of your arrogance. But I didn't expect you to be so crazy. You are here now, intercept this godchild's profound arc. Could it be that you want to intercept and kill this godchild? Ji Yu Luokang looked at Ling Tian jokingly with his hand holding his hand. Hearing this, Ling Tian smiled, his hands flashed. I saw a magic knife against the black light fell into my hand. Camera shift down. The wisps of black smoke evaporate along the sharp blade, which is very strange. Looking at this knife, it seems that I have seen the darkest abyss. It seems that the godchild guessed right. Ji Yu Luokang looked at Ling Tian's behavior and shook his head with a smile. A pair of sharp eyes looked at Ling Tian, full of pity and playfulness. Ling Tian, do you know that it's up to you today? This godchild will even kill your god strategy military mansion. No one in this world will say anything against it. You are such an idiot. Yeah, Ling Tian felt the smile on the face of the supreme mighty power that the oracle knife in his hand gave him a 3-pointer. Shook his head and chuckled. Everything is good. That's too much nonsense. The moment the voice fell, Ji Yu Luokang's face suddenly turned cold. His voice was extremely cold, and then he commanded to the 4 swordsmen. Kill him. The voice falls. Servant Sijian did not hesitate. The 4 ancient bronze swords on his back were unsheathed at the same time. Zheng, 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 zheng. 4 sword ray lights up. In an instant, the darkness shrouded in the sky was cut open. Next second, the 4 streamers dragged their long tail lights towards Ling Tian like falling stars. The 4 sword servants all possess the terrifying strength of the pinnacle of the king. The 4 of them were even more terrifying to the extreme when they shot together. If the cultivator at the pinnacle of the conquered king realm faces such 4 people, I'm afraid that before the sword arrives, I can feel the soul-piercing fear of 10,000 swords. And at this moment, I saw Ling Tian slowly raise the oracle knife and let out a spit of breath. A magic flame ignited in his left eye, and a divine light lit up in his right eye. Then the 2 powers were melted together very mysteriously. Boom! An extremely terrifying might erupted from Ling Tian's body. The whole world began to tremble. The endless heaven and earth energy essence all converged towards Ling Tian. At the moment when I feel the incomparably abundant energy gathering in my body. Drink! Ling Tian shouted coldly, and the oracle knife smashed out horizontally. Zheng! An extremely bright and dazzling peerless sword light lit up. The whole world suddenly faded. The moment the 4 sword servants saw the light of the sword light up, his complexion suddenly changed, and the hairs behind him stood upside down. They made the same move next. That is to turn offense to defense, with all swords in the chest. Zheng! The bright sword light swept past. The ancient sword in the hands of the 4 shattered instantly. The body flew out like a broken blood bag. Blood and broken bones flew in the void. Among them are fragments of broken ancient swords. Defeated the 4 peak kings in one fell swoop. It was Ji Yu Luokang's heart that was also surprised. You know this is not the power of heaven defying 7 magic knives. Rather, Ling Tian brought together the best sword after smelting Shinto and Devil Dao. This knife can be said to have emptied all of his profound energy. It stands to reason that he should not be able to continue fighting now. However, after turning on the world-defying 7-realm god realm, at the moment after losing my profound strength, I was immediately filled with the endless vitality and essence of the world. In an instant, he returned to the peak again. This world defying 7 realms is too abnormal. Ling Tian feels the endless power in the body. I can't help but feel a little shock in my heart. Enabling the god of transformation means that he can use his profound energy at will. Don't worry at all, the profound strength is not enough. In other words, turning on the god of transformation is equivalent to turning on the infinite firepower combat mode. His Royal Highness, this guy is weird. The voice of blood spilling from the mouth of the 4 great swordsmen opened in horror. All 4 of them had a blood mark on their chests. Sinbai's breastbone was exposed to the air and it was terrifying. Trash, retreat. Ji Luokong glared at the 4 of them. Then he looked at Ling Tian, who was like the center of the world with a cold killing light flashing in his eyes. Zheng, a flash in his hand. A crimson sword appeared in his hand. It is the famous sword Kai Shao. The moment this sword appeared, his temperament has changed surprisingly. He was rebellious and sharp-edged before. But at this moment, he is full of sword intent. You can even hear the clank and sword crowing wherever your eyes are swept. It's worthy of being a recognized genius in swordsmanship. Have the most transparent Jianxin. Ling Tian has frivolous eyebrows, whispering to himself. Ji Luokong at this moment is undoubtedly a very terrifying existence. His eyes are calm like a secluded fountain. The voice is as cold as eternal ice. Ling Tian, I hope you remember. Today, you must die, without exception. Shen's military mansion will eventually die because of you. Hearing this, Ling Tian curled his mouth, sneered and sneered. Dare to ask where you are confident? Because of your sword drawing and heaven slashing skills? Or is it because of your sealed Holy Lord cultivation base? The voice fell. Ji Luokong's expression suddenly froze. A glimpse of dullness passed in his eyes. His mood was upset for the first time. How did you find out? His voice was a little low, like a beast on the verge of an explosion. Ling Tian looked at Ji Luokong's slightly changed face. Smiled and didn't answer him. But the mocking smile on his face grew stronger and stronger. Did not say. Very good. After the Son of God abolished you, he will search for your soul himself. Ji Luokong grinned with an extremely gloomy smile. At this moment, he was really killing Ling Tian. His father specially sealed his cultivation base with great means in order to conceal his strength. His real cultivation base is the top secret of the entire Tibetan Sword Villa. The entire Tibetan Sword Villa knew that he had no more than 5 fingers to break through the Holy Lord realm. But Ling Tian can say it in one go. Not only that, but Ling Tian actually knew that he had cultivated the taboo sword skill of the Tibetan Sword Villa. This is too incredible, right? These sword skills are the strongest hole cards he has prepared in order to compete with the goddesses and goddesses of the entire Shenshuan continent. But that's the end of the matter, he also thought about it clearly. Today he will kill Ling Tian no matter what, and then search for it. After he figured out the truth of the matter, he stopped all the disasters at today. We must not reveal the world's nothing. Therefore, Ling Tian has to die. Shen's Junfu is also dead. When Ji Luokong thought of this, his face became extremely gloomy. Then he raised his finger and put it on his eyebrow. Indifferently talking to himself. Seal. Remove. The moment the voice fell, the eyebrows that touched his fingertips and forehead suddenly burst into a flawless light. Dao Guang is extremely mysterious, and it is as gorgeous as the light of the morning sun. And with a strong and domineering spirit of God. Immediately afterwards, the light flowed to his whole body. His breath has also undergone a radical change in just 3 breaths. Boom! A terrifying roar of profound energy resounded through the sky. The dazzling divine light blasted into the sky and shook the entire magical beast's forest. His profound strength level also ascensioned a level in an instant. In the true sense, he has stepped from the profound power of the conferred king realm to the profound power of the Holy Lord realm. And what no one noticed is, in the clouds above the sky, an old figure stood. His hair is gray and his face is full of gullies. But his body is extremely tall and straight, like a sword that pierces the sky. He is one of the 4 elders in the Tibetan Sword Villa, Xuanwei Elder Ji Yuzan. This time, he was ordered by the owner of the Hidden Sword Villa to protect Ji Luokong secretly. So even Ji Luokong didn't even know his existence. And his strength has reached the peak of the terrifying Holy Lord realm. Only one step away can step into the sovereign profound realm. It seems that His Royal Highness is really angry. But it's okay, Ling Tian, this kid is going to die. As for the Shen's military mansion, it's better to be destroyed. Ji Yu Zhan whispered. But, even he didn't notice. There was also a beautiful figure standing on the top of the sky that was still above his head. A snowsuit. The face is glamorous, extremely stunning. There is not a trace of breath flowing from her body. But there is a frightening prestige. But at this moment, her beautiful eyes did not look at Ji Yu Zhan under her feet. Instead, it passed through the layers of thin clouds and placed it on Ling Tian. Then the corners of the lips, like a rose of a blade, slowly lifted up and whispered. Things are starting to get interesting. The camera turns back to the void. Ji Yu Luokang arbitrarily released the pressure of the Holy Lord realm. A stern face was full of murderous intent without any hidden. He raised the Qishao sword, the sword pointed at Ling Tian slowly and said. Ling Tian, you have to die today. Ah, Ling Tian sneered. Again, you talk too much nonsense. After all, the magic flame and divine light in Ling Tian's eyes were melted to the extreme, and the world-defying light bloomed. At this moment, the world-defying seven realms Hua Shen was turned to the limit by him. The spirit of the whole world is pouring into him madly. He is doing the final preparation. The heaven-defying seven magic knife is a bizarre saber technique with the power of heaven-defying. Its weirdness is that it consumes life force in exchange for heaven-defying power. After the seven knives were cast, almost all the life energy of a person had been taken out of the body. This is the weird side of it. No one wants to make such seven knives. Because, after seven knives, the vital energy is exhausted, the display must die. But Ling Tian doesn't worry about this problem. Because when he opened the world-defying seven realms of God, he can swallow all the vitality and the essence of heaven and earth to fill himself. Even if he cuts out seven knives, he can perfectly replenish his life energy. Call. Ling Tian slowly raised the oracle knife. Whispered, heaven-defying seven magic knives, heaven-defying method, change the fate of heaven. Zheng. At this moment, Ling Tian suddenly became ethereal. It seems that his figure is gradually fading. And behind him appeared seven extremely tall magic shadows. This is, what cultivation technique? Ji Yu Luokang's eyes widened as he watched the weird scene in front of him, his eyelids jumped. What he couldn't understand was that the cultivation base of his Holy Lord realm was trembling on Ling Tian. And above the sky, Ji Yu Zhan was even more shocked. Incarnation outside the seventh stage. What kind of evil is this guy? Ji Yu Zhan was shocked. In his cognition, the incarnation outside of the body is a peerless magical power that can barely be displayed by a strong monarch. But, Ling Tian turned into seventh stage at one time. How did you do that? He felt that his cognition was severely shattered. So powerful, so weird skill. There is even more powerful power in it. This little guy does have something. On the top of the sky, Leng Han looked at Ling Tian unblinkingly in a pair of icy eyes holding his arms. In the shot, the seven magic shadows around Ling Tian gradually materialized. Like seven supernatural demon gods, they began to revolve around Ling Tian non-stop. Then the speed of rotation is getting faster and faster. The magic flames ignited on the bodies of the last seven demon shadows. Then he pounced on Ling Tian. Roar! At the moment when seven demon shadows merged with Ling Tian, a terrifying magic sound runs through the whole world. Most of the light was swallowed in an instant. The whole Tianyu is dimmed. At this moment, Ling Tian ignited a fiery magic flame all over. A pair of clear eyes became pitch black like an abyss. There are no white eyes. There is only darkness. Standing in a shadow all over. At the same time, an indescribable aura came out. Asphyxia, destroy, ash. These three feelings invaded him, making Ji Yu Luokang's voice a little frightened. You, what kind of magic is you? He didn't want to be like this, but he felt the mighty magic power of the world and really couldn't control his trembling voice. Heaven-defying seven magic knives. Kill. Ling Tian suddenly raised his head. A crimson glow flashed through the dark eyes. Putting up the hand of Qingjin, lifted the oracle and cut it directly towards Ji Yu Luokang. Boom, boom, boom. Cut it down. The world fades. The violent energy fluctuations swelled across the sky and the earth, and the invisible pressure surged to the outside like an angry wave. The terrifying magic knife with unrivaled power fell as if it had split the sky and the earth. What a strong knife! Ji Yuzhan looked at Ling Tian's knife that seemed to be able to split the world and suddenly lost his voice. But he didn't immediately make a move, because he knew that the strength of Ling Tian's sword had reached the level of the Holy Lord realm. But it can't help his own godson. Function 3 swords. Master the sword into a dragon. Ji Yu Luokong gave a cold voice. The whole body blooms with blazing, scorching divine light. With a twist of his wrist, the Kai Shao sword swept out. Roar! 3 blazing sword dragons roared out of the sky with ferocious roar. With the power of closing the sky, it suddenly collided with the magic knife. Zheng! The whole void is quiet. Then it exploded. Boom! 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 A violent storm of profound energy swept across the sky. The sword light collided with sword chi and generated devastating energy, which spread out in the void. There are little energy ripples in the void of space. The ripples spread past, directly cutting off hundreds of towering ancient trees in the magical beast's forest. Even the mountain peak not far away burst suddenly, and the break was smooth into the mirror. But this is not over yet. Ling Tian's eyes glowed with mysterious black smoke. Stepping on the void, red flames are burning all over the body, like a demon master. He carried the oracle knife in his hand, and even split 5 knives. Drink. Ji Yu Luokong faces the terrifying and irreversible powerful magic knife coming. He roared and danced the Qishao sword in his hand, showing his amazing kendo talent. All kinds of terrifying and incredible sword skills were displayed by him one by one. Sword of nothing. 1 sword falls to the star. 9 heavens God King sword. 9 styles of falling constant. Double swords cut. Boom, 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 boom. The dark sword light of the entire sky and the dazzling sword ray kept colliding. The light in an instant is dazzling and gorgeous. Even the heaven and the earth were rendered extremely dazzling in an instant. Ji Yu Luokong has a lot of sword skills. But facing the 5 black blades that seem to be the strongest between the world and the earth, they look dwarfed. The black knife light falls. His irresistible interception and defeat. What you can see is Ling Tian's heaven-defying 7 magic knives. After every cut, a magic shadow will dissipate in the sky. But the power is more powerful than a single blow. Ling Tian, he cut 5 knives in a row. Ji Yu Luokong also took 5 knives. And every time the knife fell, Ji Yu Luokong shocked all over his body and retreated several steps, vomiting blood. After 5 swords, Ji Yu Luokong's face was pale, and his whole person turned into a bloody man. There is a loose color in the eyes. The tall and straight body shivered constantly, shaking like duckweed in the wind and rain. He was actually injured, but the injury is very serious. Asshole. The son of God can never lose. You must be killed today. Ji Yu Luokong roared with blood in his mouth. He crossed his sword in his chest. The tone is gloomy, like muttering silently in a dream. Forbidden swordsmanship. Draw the sword and cut the sky. Boom. There was a tremor in the void. Then there was a general trend of heaven and earth descending on him. And Ling Tian felt that the swords of the world's 10,000 swords were aimed at him. But he didn't have the slightest expression. Wisps of black air wafted out of his eyes. Oops. There is horror in Ji Yuzhan's eyes above the sky. He knows the power of draw sword and heaven/technique best. Its power is far better than the heaven-defying 7 magic knives that Ling Tian displayed before. It stands to reason that the battle should end immediately. However, at this moment, he stared blankly at Ling Tian. I don't know why he can feel an extreme danger. Ha, it's over. Standing on the top of the sky, the cold snorted softly. Lens shift. Ling Tian slowly raised the oracle. This time he used both hands. Zheng, I saw a huge black shadow of heavenly demon appearing behind him. Mo Ying held a black blade high above his head. Its action is unexpectedly consistent with Ling Tian. The magic power is overwhelming, covering the sky and the sun. Ended. The magic flame in Ling Tian's eyes suddenly flickered. The magic knife smashed down from the sky. This knife seemed to have swallowed the light of the whole world. Let the world go dark. It seems that this is the only one in the world. The knife mansions are down. Sad and dazzling. This is the last cut of the heaven-defying 7 magic knife. It is also a heaven-defying knife in the true sense. This knife carries a peerless power that cannot be passed by common sense. Draw the sword and cut the sky. Ji Yu Luokang's mad roar completely blushed. His sword seems to come from the chaos outside the sky. One sword opened up a new world, and it really has the power of one sword to dominate. Boom, boom, boom. The roaring wind and thunder between heaven and earth are resounding endlessly. At the same time a very clear breaking sound sounded. Click. In the silence, a ray of light gradually pours down from the darkest sky. Two figures slowly appeared. Ling Tian's body shook for a while. His face became abnormally pale. The huge shadow behind him slowly shattered and dissipated. After 7 knives, he can feel that his own life energy has been almost completely taken away. But because of the existence of the world-defying 7-level gods, can continue to help him devour the heaven and earth essence and vital energy. So let him not fall for the time being. On the other hand, Ji Yu Luokang is covered in blood. Standing in place like a puppet, he stared blankly at the fragments of the Qishao sword floating above the sky. And the fragments of his body armor. And before him stood an old man. It is Ji Yu Zan. Uncle Master. Okay, what a terrifying knife. At this moment, Ji Yu Luokang's voice is not only shaking again. It was shivering from head to toe to hair strands. Just now Ling Tian cut out the scene of the last cut. Like a nightmare, it kept playing back in his mind. The more he thinks, the more fear in his heart. The cold sweat had already soaked his back. You know, compared to Ling Tian's heaven-defying 7 magic knife's last cut. His sword drawing and heaven slashing technique is like a child's play, extremely fragile. Just now it was just the sword power coming, and it instantly crushed and disintegrated his sword drawing and sky cutting skills. Then he clearly perceives his Qishao sword and his soft armor. Shattered in that terrifying sword power. If it wasn't for Ji Yu Zan's timely appearance. Helped him block Ling Tian's last cut of the world-famous spirit. Even if he has 10 lives, he must be accounted for under Ling Tian. Ah! Ji Yu Zan sighed as he looked at Ji Yu Luokang, who was standing still like a puppet. He knew that his haughty and arrogant son of God, His Royal Highness. Because of Ling Tian's knife, Dao heart and worldview collapsed. If you don't think of a solution in time, then Ji Yu Luokang may live in the shadow of Ling Tian forever. But there is only one way. That is to get rid of Ling Tian. If there is no such person in this world, this might make Ji Yu Luokang regain confidence and cheer up. Boy, I have to admit that you are a wizard. However, this world will not tolerate you after all. Ji Yu Zan looked at Ling Tian with gloomy eyes. Hearing that, Ling Tian smiled without accident. Heart said, sure enough, there is an old immortal in Hidden Sword Villa to protect Ji Yu Luokang secretly. At this time, his hand is already on the own ring. And in his receiving ring, there is a golden lotus flower lying quietly in the corner. The 12 petals of the lotus flower are shining with the light of the world. Today, you must die. Ji Yu Zan stepped forward. A ruthless look flashed in Ling Tian's eyes. When preparing to take out his ultimate backhand, Buddha Fury Tang Lian. A very cold voice rang from the sky and the earth. Puppy can't do it, old dog. This seat is really an eye-opener today. Who is it? Listening to the extremely arrogant voice in the sky, Ji Yu Zan couldn't help but roar. At the same time, his eyes kept scanning the surroundings. He didn't expect that there would be other people besides him at the scene. And Ling Tian listened to this voice. Slightly frowned. The voice is strange. It should be someone he is not familiar with. And at this moment, a beautiful shadow slowly appeared in front of Ling Tian. She winds snow in white. 3,000 green silks drifted in the wind to her slender waist. A beautiful face of heaven was full of mockery. Those eyes that resemble starlight and the sea can fascinate the glitz of 1,000 generations with just a smile. A holy appearance, even if I think that 9 heavens moon god descends to the earth. But what doesn't match it is. The curve of her posture is like a devil's outline, embossed to be thrilling. Nowhere is the enchantment an enchantment that evokes the bones of the whole body. The temperament of this woman. It really is the coexistence of holiness and seductiveness. It is not an exaggeration to describe it as breathtaking. Who is she? Ling Tian stared at the strange woman in front of her. He confirmed that he had never seen her. Who are you? Ji Yuzan frowned and looked at the woman in front of him and asked coldly. He didn't make a hasty shot, because he felt a strong pressure on the woman. Ha ha. The woman glanced at her beautiful eyes. Ji Yuzan couldn't help but sneered. Only you. Do you deserve to know the name of this seat? The voice falls. Ji Yuzan's face turned cold. The clouds in a pair of eyes are uncertain. This woman is undoubtedly strong. At least at the peak of the Holy Lord realm. Call. He took a deep breath and lowered his posture to speak. Fairy, this person has an insoluble grievance with my Hidden Sword Villa. Please also Fairy, give me a face at Hidden Sword Villa, and leave. I will be grateful for Hidden Sword Villa. His words sound soft, seemingly without any sharpness. But it is also very tough. Between the lines is the Hidden Sword Villa. In fact, with the power of the Hidden Sword Villa, if an ordinary person may be gone, but she is no ordinary person. Tibetan Sword Villa. Grateful. It's so good. The woman's jade hand taps her delicate chin. A beautiful smile bloomed on that beautiful face. Hearing this, Ji Yuzan quietly breathed a sigh of relief. He has determined that this woman is not a member of the martial god country. But at last he could still sell a face of the Tibetan Sword Villa. And at this moment, the woman suddenly said with a smile but not a smile. But this seat has a problem. Ji Yuzan responded with a smile after hearing this. Fairy, but say it's okay. The moment his voice fell. A flower in front of me. The woman disappeared in front of his eyes strangely. A feeling of extreme danger hits from the depths of the soul. Ji Yuzan gave a low voice, hurrying to mobilize profound strength. But I was horrified to find my own profound strength has been completely frozen. At the same time, an extremely cold voice resounded across the sky. What is your Hidden Sword Villa? Dare to discuss face under this seat. It's so funny. The moment the voice fell, Ji Yuzan's face changed drastically. Even without profound strength, he wants to turn around and fight to the death of a woman. But thoughts together, he felt his own legs gradually lose consciousness. His eyes moved down, saw a frightening scene. The frost that turned into an ice snake gradually climbed from his legs to his whole body. After a few breaths, frost covered his face ruthlessly. In an instant, his consciousness was completely dissipated in the extreme cold. Look at his body of the Holy Lord. It seems to have been frozen into a big block of ice. What? Ji Yu Luokong yelled in horror. Rolling and crawling want to escape from here. But I found out that my legs are no longer obedient. His Royal Highness. 4 swordsmen rushed over with the belief that he was mortal and wanted to rescue Ji Yu Luokong. However, he has not yet stepped into Ji Yu Luokong's 10 steps. They were all frozen into 4 ice men. You. Who are you? Ji Yu Luokong yelled in horror. Upon hearing this, the woman turned her head and glanced at Ji Yu Luokong. There was a deep ridicule in the beautiful eyes. Then she stretched out her fingertips and lightly tapped Ji Yuzan, who was already frozen into an iceman. Click. The sound of shattering. A crack appeared on the ice. The cracks joined together. Then the whole ice block exploded. Ji Yuzan. Fallen. Devil. You are the devil. Ji Yu Luokong yelled out. He has never seen such a weird scene. You must know that Ji Yuzan owns Elder, the Hidden Sword Villa, the Cultivation Base, the peak of the Holy Lord. But in front of this woman, he didn't even have the qualifications to shoot. In the blink of an eye, it turned into ice scum. So strong. Ling Tian dully looked at the woman's means. This can no longer be described as strong. It can only be described as abnormal, exaggeration, outrageous. And at this moment, the woman's beautiful eyes turned to him leisurely. You say, should I kill him or not? Upon hearing this, Ling Tian was taken aback. I thought she was asking for own opinion. Or is it fishing? Soon, he took a deep breath and said, please also Fairy, save his life. Ji Yu Luokong is the godson of Hidden Sword Villa. He is alive and dead to himself. And if he kills like this, his plan will undoubtedly be disrupted. Ha ha. The woman seems to have guessed Ling Tian's decision. So he nodded and withdrew his own jade hand. Afterwards, she looked up and down. Ling Tian said, according to your, however, I saved your life today. This kindness, but I have to pay it back. Forehead. Ling Tian nodded and said, Fairy's kindness. Ling Tian will always remember it in my heart. I just don't know How does Fairy want Ling Tian to repay this favor? He secretly guessed. If this woman has been watching her duel all the time, then she most likely wants heaven-defying 7 magic knives. So here comes the question. If she wants, do you give it yourself? Upon seeing the woman, she seemed to see through Ling Tian's somewhat worried and careful thoughts. Slightly pursed red lips. Don't worry, I don't need your saber technique. Not to mention your weapons. You can give me everything I want. Ah, Ling Tian's eyes passed a touch of doubt. He scratched his head and asked, Fairy, can you be specific? Ha ha, the woman's beautiful and unparalleled face lifted up a smile that succeeded in conspiracy. The red lips that resemble a knife edge rose gently evoke an arc. The voice is arrogant and domineering. You, there is one and only you. Ling Tian, I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.